What is up, my fellow cinephiles, my film fan, everyone out there? Hope you're having a good evening. We're here on Saturday night. For those of you watching later on, whenever you're watching on the replay, happy whatever day it is. Hope you're having a good day so far. But thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, dudes and dudettes, bros and brosettes, sisters, girls. I don't know. I don't know what the opposite of bros is yet. Maybe is it girls? I don't know. Maybe my panel will help me out here. But yes, welcome. This is Film Grain episode 2. For those of you that are new to the channel, first of all, thank you for coming out and watching us discuss movies, entertainment, video games, TV shows. So Film Grain is the show that I created, or I guess the stream that I created to discuss topics related to movies and TV shows. Unscripted, right? We're going live, obviously, and I prefer to have a natural conversation with my guests and those in the chat or whoever are watching. Hence, Film Grain, right? It's just the natural process of film. So this is going to be a natural discussion. This could be a heated one. This could be a good one. I don't know. I'm looking forward to this one. It's been a minute. I've been waiting for this one for a while. I had this in the works. I just was waiting for the right time to get it going and get my guests lined up. So with that, without further ado, let me go ahead and bring them in. We got Carlos Reverzio, Austin Nicholas, and Killer Cam from Cam's Collections. Gentlemen, what is going on?
What up, baby?
Hey, happy Saturday, guys.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in on this weekend. For those of you watching live, I appreciate you. I'll address the chat here in a minute. But yeah, hope you're having a good weekend so far. Let's start with Cam. Cam, man, we were talking backstage.
Yeah,
it's been a long time coming for this. We've been trying to get this worked out. I know you're over there busy on the red carpet, and you gotta make time in your schedule to come on other people's streams. So how you doing, man?
Good, man. Glad to be here. Like you said, we definitely had this one in the works for a while, and excited to finally get to this conversation about the best MCU trilogies. It's gonna be a good one.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, I'm pumped, psyched. Hopefully that man. I was listening to that music. I picked that intro song on purpose because it's just like got me pumped.
It was good. It was exhilarating, honestly. It was a good one.
Yeah. You felt the trumpets and the.
I did. Cinematic, very cinematic.
Cinematic, yeah. Austin Nicholas, how you doing, man? Thank you for coming back on the stream.
Of course, Feezy. I'm happy to be here, guys. For one, the topic is a fun one, but also not only are you guys like friends, but like I'm fans of y'all as well. So it's always fun to actually be able to sit down and talk with you guys. This is my first time streaming with Cam, so it's even more exciting for me.
Yeah.
Like I said, not only a friend, but like I'm a fan of your stuff. So this is exciting.
Yeah, it's great, man. I'm excited too.
Yeah, connecting people. I love it. I'm all about that networking. And then, of course, last but not least, the man himself, Reverzio. Carlos, what is up, baby?
Dude, thank you for having me back on your streams, baby. I'm excited, man. It's always a good time, man. From the first time we met you in OxCon, man. We were just talking about that the other day about how you were wilding with the charades game. You were hyping us up and stuff. That was so fun, man. So it's always a pleasure to be here, as well as seeing Austin, my good friend, and then to meet Cam face to face. I'm looking forward to that. And it's like they talked about, the topic itself is a very interesting one, because I think it was a big part of our lives, that chapter of the MCU in terms of cinematography and stuff. It's like I know, like a lot of what's around some of our collections is based around those years, and so it'll be nice to share and see what everybody else's opinions are, as well as in the chat, see what people think about our responses. So I'm eager and excited to see that, man.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up. So, for those of you who didn't catch the first streams or on my other channel, there are streams on my other channel, Feezy's Figures. And again, who are new to this, we're all collectors here. For those of you that don't know, who are just tuning in, I'm sure most of you do. But for those that don't, we have multiple hobbies, right? And this, as you can see behind us, collecting figures is part of it. Another one is film. Hence why I created this other separate channel, and hence why I brought these guys over. This is something we all share in common, our love of film. I know we're all big fans of the MCU, but we have some different thoughts on certain movies. I just thought it'd be good for us to get together and discuss. I know some of you out there have always had those discussions, the best MCU movie, the best trilogy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. And but yeah, like Carlos said, a lot of our collection stems from just nostalgia, our love of film, our love of TV. and we're no different here on this panel. So again, thank you, gentlemen, for joining. Let's see here. So real quick, a couple of house rules. So we're going to go through the trilogies. Again, this is literally just trilogies. So the first 3 sets of MCU movies that have come out so far. So if there's a 4th movie in that series for a particular line, we're not going to include that. So Thor: Love and Thunder, gone. I'm sure a lot of people aren't going to miss that. What's the other one? And yeah. What? Am I thinking? No, Ant-Man only had 3, right?
Ant-Man only had 3.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of another one. Wasn't there another one had 4? Maybe that was the only one so far. Well, then there you go. I guess.
Yeah, just Thor.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Then that's convenient. That works out. All right, gentlemen. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through each of the trilogies one at a time. We're going to give our thoughts around the clock, likes, dislikes, just overall impressions. We're going to go through them. And for all of you who are watching in the chat or who watch later, once we go through all of them, then we're going to give our favorite trilogy. I'm sure you'll probably can kind of guess as we go along and you hear us talking about some of the trilogies. You'll probably be able to narrow down which ones are going to be our favorite, if you didn't know already. And then, we'll go through there. Then we should be good. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, collectors and collectorettes, let us do this. We got the best MCU trilogy, and also let me know in the chat there how our levels are. If any of us come in hot, we'll try to adjust that, or if the music's too low or if it's too loud, definitely let us know. So and partake where you can. I'll try to catch all of you. Speaking of the chat, we got Easy Company Collectibles. Hello, I have come for Bearded Lady.
Yeah. That's my buddy. For one, has an amazing collection.
Okay.
Big time YouTuber, but he actually just moved right down the road too. So that's kind of how we got connected.
Oh, okay. So you want to explain the context on the Bearded Lady?
Wow.
Or no, it's okay. You don't have to.
I'm his Bearded Lady.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, that's for another story. That's for another time. Action Figure Academy in the house. Let's go, kids. It's Mr. Feezy's Figurehood. Yeah, it's a beautiful day in the Figurehood. What is up, Mike? Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you coming through again, man. Always appreciate the support, Mike. Good looking out. Good sir. Broke on Toys in the house. Let's go, guys. Beautiful Saturday. How's it on the West Coast there for weather-wise for you guys?
It's getting kind of humid now.
Okay.
Our weather's getting kind of bad. Mosquitoes are starting to come out. Like,
oh no,
it's not looking good right now, man.
No.
60s today in Arkansas. It was a good day.
Dude.
Oh, was it? Okay, nice. Yeah, I was about that here in Cali. So no overcast, no rain yet. So I think hopefully we got past it, but I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. But yeah, the weather's been good. All right, gentlemen, you ready?
Let's do this.
Let's do this. All right, first up, I'm sure we all know what the first trilogy we're going to discuss is. The one that kicked it off, the Avenger himself that started this whole MCU, this whole phenomena, and that is Mr. Tony Stark. We got Iron Man here. So Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. We'll go ahead and just go down the line for now. So Cam, overall impressions, thoughts, or do you want to go ahead and kick it off and get the momentum going?
So I honestly, it's one of my top trilogies in the MCU, to be honest. Because like you said, it started everything off, right, with Tony Stark. They did my man Terrence Howard dirty. I mean, obviously he's there, and then he hit us with the next time, baby, and then he got snapped away before it even happened.
It was them scrolls, bro.
Yeah. At this point, it's what we're seeing. I would say out of these 3, my least favorite probably was the third one, to be honest with you.
The third one, okay.
I felt like the Extremis concept should have been like a little bit more of a higher threat, because we know in the comics like how hard to exterminate Extremis was, but they just made it seem like a little fire here, a little fire there, you could take them out. I would probably say the first one is probably the best one, and the second one kind of just like sits in the middle because it did introduce new characters to us, right? So I enjoyed that aspect of it, but I just think the third one just gave us a little too much. Like it was just trying to jam pack way too much context into just one movie instead of just making it a 3. and then doing a 4 after that. But that could have been,
Gotcha.
contract stipulations or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great series, honestly. I mean, altogether. I do like the introduction of the suits at the end of the third one, but I think the most deviant villain that was in this whole entire thing was Whiplash, though. So
Whiplash, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
So for me, number 2 is probably gonna be my favorite one out of all.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, real quick before I should have did this earlier, but Iron Man 1, 2008, directed by Jon Favreau. Iron Man 2, 2010, so 2 years after, again directed by Jon Favreau. And the third one switched it up and went to Shane Black. That one came out in 2013. And before I jump over to Austin real quick, so here's I went through and I got some trivia from IMDb because I thought that would also be fun, and I always enjoy doing that just because it's kind of interesting and crazy to hear some of the things that come up during these movies. So one quick little trivia piece here for Iron Man 1 was that the "I am Iron Man" quote was actually ad-libbed by RDJ. I guess there wasn't actually a script or a line written for that, and Robert Downey Jr. was just,
and that's going to go down in cinema history as one of the biggest, best lines of dialogue ever.
Iconic, right? So iconic.
Yep, he nailed it.
It definitely was, because if you think about it, Jason Momoa tried to recreate it at the end of Aquaman too. So it's like,
oh yeah.
Oh my god!
I mean, when you think of lines spoken in movies, you think of like "I am your father" or "I am Iron Man."
Yeah.
That's. Yeah. I can't wait to see what people think about this in 20 years.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's one of those things that just made its way into pop culture in almost every aspect. And just that, like you said, that line, the "I am your father" and "I am Iron Man." I haven't seen them all, but I'm sure there's a lot. It's probably used in multiple television shows and in other things like that. I don't know. It's just, it's just going to be one of those lines, like you said. It's just going to probably stand the test of time, along with that "I am your father" quote there. One of the biggest other biggest lines of cinema history. So with Austin, we'll go ahead and stick with you. What are your thoughts on the Iron Man movies? Which one would be your favorite? Likes, dislikes, or anything?
Yeah, there's a lot here. So if I miss anything, I'm sure we'll pick it back up. But I think the interesting thing for me is I just rewatched the MCU. We're actually almost done with it. I'm rewatching it with my girlfriend Rachel, and this is her first time watching the MCU. Yeah. So
nice.
I'm getting like that experience of somebody watching all of this for the first time, which how often does that happen? I'm sure a one-off movie here or there, but the entire franchise. So it's been really fun for me. And the really fun thing is I can share that with you guys now. I've been actually rating each of these movies as we finish them. So I have my 1 out of 10 score, and I have Rachel's 1 out of 10.
That's right.
Okay. So the first Iron Man, I rated it an 8.9, and she gave it an 8.
Okay.
Second Iron Man, I gave it an 8 flat, and she gave it an 8 flat. I'm sorry, Cam. The first one for me.
It's okay.
Man, that is damn near perfection. Not many movies takes that 10 out of 10. So, the 8.9 pretty good. And then I gave Iron Man 3 a 7, and Rachel gave it an 8.5. She really liked the third one.
Ooh.
Yeah, man. I first one is fantastic. Not only is the first one so good, but I think why I love the character of Tony Stark so much, and why I love Robert Downey Jr. For one, this is what the start of the MCU, but Robert Downey Jr. had quite the colorful past, for those who know, right? Had a really colorful past, hit some extremely low points, and this was his comeback, This was the first big role. And the great thing about Iron Man, and this is why I think he's one of, if not the best character in the MCU, is the fact of we see a man in Iron Man, and we see him in the very beginning, opening scenes. We see how he acts, how he talks, how he presents himself, and it's different by the end of the movie. Yeah. This is a character that the MCU is not scared of giving us character development. Like, they allow him to fail. And he fails hard. You know what he does? He learns from it. And it's a good metaphor for the suits. He makes the Mark I. He notices a lot of obvious things that needs to be improved. You know what he does? He makes another suit.
Yeah.
Then when he notices things that went wrong or things he needs to fix, you know what he does? He upgrades it. And he himself, as a character, does this in every single movie that we see.
Mhm.
Every single movie he learns from, he changes, he adapts, he grows. Like, we watch this on screen. That is
Yeah.
character development. And like Robert Downey Jr. has done that himself. So like he's
Yeah.
even transcended the character. So I have a lot of love for Iron Man for all of that reason. But yeah, Iron Man 1 takes the cake for me, baby. Iron Man 2, I agree, Cam. Whiplash. Awesome. I mean, for one, aesthetically, how cool is that? In the
Yeah.
entire intro of him being revealed to Iron Man, him walking out with the suit burning up,
Yeah.
as like the energy charges on the
Yeah.
wrist come on. That's an entrance. Now that is a villain entrance right there. So I have a lot of love for Iron Man 2. First one beats it out. Third one, a bit convoluted. There's a lot of good things here, and it's shot
Yeah.
really, really well too.
Mm.
Yeah, the third one unfortunately falls behind the first two.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I've definitely heard that. So I wanted to touch on what you said about Robert Downey Jr.'s troubled past, and another bit of trio that I pulled here was actually a quote from Favreau. So he felt he's the one that wanted Robert Downey Jr. for the role, and he felt that he was right for the part. And he has this quote here that he says, "The best and worst moments of Robert's life have been in the public eye. He had to find an inner balance to overcome obstacles that went far beyond his career." And this, so when I read this, I was just like, man, he already knew what he wanted. And, I'm sure he talked this over with Robert Downey Jr. and was like, hey, I want you for this part because of, of who you are. And like you said, Austin, like this troubled past. And it's kind of, I thought that was kind of respectful, right? He was like, he wasn't trying to shy away from it. He owned it. He's like, okay, you know what? I can use this for this role. And he did, man. He just owned it. And yeah, Favreau was right. Yeah, like he was just Tony Stark, right? That we all know him. Like we can't see anyone else playing Tony Stark now because of that. And I think that's a good example of the person with the vision. So in this case, Favreau, who knows the source material really well. Like, he knew about Tony Stark and he had to make those connections, right? Because if he didn't know anything about the source material, about the comics, yeah, I don't think he would have probably thought of Robert Downey Jr. He probably would have thought of somebody else more for like numbers and statistics, like who's going to sell well if it was some other exec. But it's just a good example again of someone knowing the source material and utilizing that for their movie and for their vision. And it was just really awesome, and it paid off for that. But Carlos, your take on this trilogy here, the first, I don't say the first, but to kick off the MCU, Iron Man, the Iron Mans.
You know what's crazy, man? It's like, I think the first MCU movie I saw was like Thor or Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I wasn't keeping up with this like kind of like world of like movies. I was just kind of like watching movies as they came or about.
Yeah.
And I actually had to go back and watch Iron Man when I found out that it was like a cinematic universe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was crazy because it stood out amongst the other ones which came afterwards, right? Like you already had a blueprint kind of built. So that said a lot for me right off the bat, that the first one really, really did stand out. Now, I would say that Iron Man 1 and 2 are possibly one of the best duo movies to be released in terms of like a sequel and like an origin story, because I feel like Iron Man 1 was possibly the most iconic, possibly the best origin story in a superhero movie that I've seen in specifically in the MCU. But seeing him shine in Iron Man 2, man, like he just went all out from the court scene, like that court scene where he's in like that. I love that court scene, dude. Like, yeah, man, you can't take it, right? Like, it's not yours. Like like he was just like phenomenal in Iron Man 2. I don't think I have to speak for Iron Man 1. I think we all know what Iron Man stands for, and I think everybody talked about it. But the way that he shined in Iron Man 2, like, it was what made me really love the character of Iron Man. Like, now that's where I got to see who Tony Stark was in terms of that playboy, that flamboyant
Yeah.
personality, man.
Yeah.
So oh man, I really think that those two are some of the best, like seeing the origin story and then seeing the superhero shine.
Yep.
And like you can't say that a lot in some of the other movies that I just right off the bat that I'm thinking about, because in the other movies, other sequels, they usually have some other battles or they're kind of going downhill and stuff, but he really did shine in this one. And man, that War Machine and Iron Man scene, like at the end of that movie, was
Yeah.
Yeah.
fantastic, bro.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
ex-wife scene was hilarious. I think that's what it was called, right? The ex-wife or
Yeah, the
whatever, hit it
ex-wife.
with the
Yeah.
ex-wife.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was so funny. But it's
Old
Yeah.
but
Justin Hammer.
dude, like
Yeah.
I literally like, oh man. And now when we get to Iron Man 3, that's where like the descent from what as a character, you see his internal battles and conflicts, but
Hmm.
for me, it just didn't, like, it wasn't the next step up. It was just kind of like okay, like at that point I was like, are we kind of getting, like, am I understanding what this MCU is now? Am I just becoming comfortable with this? And so when I look at Iron Man 3, I just like, I don't dislike the movie, but it's not one that makes me want to go watch it over and over and over again. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't have that if factor that I think the first one brought, or that the second one brought. There are some fantastic scenes in there, like it had a lot of awesome moments, but it just wasn't enough for it to have that it factor that brings me back to watch that movie over and over, and just kind of want to say like, oh yeah, it was one of the MCU movies. It's just for me, it just wasn't. So that's
Carlo.
Yeah.
where I stand with that.
So you mentioned 1 and 2 being like a good duo movie. I agree with this. Like, I think the second one's so good because even if you don't watch the first one, you can watch the second one and pick up on enough
Hmm.
without feeling kind of left behind or not knowing anything. And it
Yeah.
stands alone, right? And sometimes with sequels, you have exceptions like Terminator 2 or Aliens, right?
Mhm.
But some sequels, they have this bad time where they just set up the next movie, where like
Yeah.
the sequel's essentially just setting up the plot for a third movie, and that's the vehicle for the next movie, and that's kind of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Iron Man 2, you nailed this. When I watch Iron Man 1, I immediately want to watch Iron Man 2,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I don't necessarily need to watch the third one,
Yeah.
which says a lot about the sequel, right? Because there's a lot of movies that I don't...
Yeah.
Like, when I watch Terminator, I immediately have to want to watch Terminator 2, right? And
Yeah.
most of the time, I actually want to watch Terminator 2 by itself.
Yeah.
But then you have stuff like when I rewatch Predator.
Mhm.
Love it, love the movie. I don't always necessarily feel like I have to watch Predator 2,
Oh, okay. I got you.
you know?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, man.
I definitely see what you're saying on that, and I think I would have to agree. I'm thinking back on it as you guys were saying that. Yeah, I was like, well, you know what? I don't. I mean, I still like all three of them. So here's my take. Yeah, for sure. I don't really think I can add anything for the first one. That one was my top one, just because it just, well, for one, I was impressed when I first saw it. I was just like, wow, we've had other superhero movies prior to that were at least decent, were okay, but this one came out, and being comic fans, this one, I didn't read Iron Man strictly, but I knew of him and I knew a lot of it, and I had the general like Wikipedia type information, right? I wasn't a big reader into the comics itself, but I knew enough to know that what they pulled off here was awesome. And the whole Obadiah thing was pretty good. That whole like twist where you find out he was dealing behind Tony's back, selling weapons, and that was just like
Easy. Can I interrupt you? I'm so sorry. You know what's
no
funny?
worries.
Rachel actually picked up on that like early on. in
Yeah,
that movie.
did she?
She did. It is funny because I haven't watched. It's been what, 15 years, 16 years since I saw it for the first time. So I don't remember if I caught it or what. She immediately caught it, like
Did
in
she?
the very
Okay.
beginning. Yeah.
Dang, she was like
He's
on
like,
it.
he just seems like a bad guy.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he set it up for that. Yeah. But yeah, like you were saying, he improves, and he at that time I was in the military, and so it was even more really that intro scene there when he was in the Middle East and stuff. So that kind of hit home a little more. And I was just like, oh man. And I was, in the Air Force at the time. And so it just had more of an impact. It was just cool. Overall, yeah, I was just really impressed by it. Then the second one, I think, again, I agree with all of you there. I would have to agree Whiplash was probably out of the three, the best villain, just because he was trying to match Tony one for one in his intellect and what he did. Obviously, Tony still one-upped him, but it was showing that, he was trying to get where he was at and take everything from him, right? And it was just, his character. I mean, I wish I would have developed it a little more. There wasn't too much depth to it, but it was still, it was cool to see someone go somewhat toe-to-toe with Tony in that aspect. Yeah. And another bit of trivia that I learned here for that one. So Rourke, obviously, he did some physical training. He was trying to condition his body for the role. And so it turns out, I guess, the whips that he was using, even with him working out, they were just really heavy for him. And so what he ended up doing is he had to wear heavy vests while he was training. So that way, to get his body accustomed to using those whips. So that way, when he took it off, it didn't feel as heavy. And that reminded me of Goku, from Dragon Ball. When he trains, he has like weights on and he's just trying to get more jacked and go faster. And then when he takes them off, he's just like super fast.
Like Rock Lee.
Yeah, like Rock Lee, his ankle bracelets. Yeah, exactly. And that's what it reminded me of. So that's basically what Mickey Rourke had to do. He was training with these heavy vests on to accustom his body to wearing that heavy armor, which I thought was pretty interesting.
That's cool.
And then Iron Man 3. So when a lot of people didn't like it, I actually did like it. I know there was didn't get as good ratings. I mean, and overall it was, I agree with you all. It didn't feel on the same level as the previous two, but I did appreciate the fact that they tried to make Tony, they tried to take him back to square one, right? Make him a hero without the suit. And I was a little disappointed, honestly, that he didn't really wear the suit as much. It was more just remote controlled, right, from his visor. And it always kept breaking that one. What is it, the 42? Was it the 42?
I'm awful with the marks. I have no idea. I get them all mixed up.
Yeah, I think, the mostly gold one. Yeah, I kind of do too. I kind of forget which ones are which, except for the main ones, obviously, but the original 7. But yeah, anyways, that one, he was always trying to utilize it, but for some reason something was going on. And the moments where they added, where Pepper used the suit, that was pretty cool too. That was really awesome. And even when she used parts of it at the end, where she came through and she had that the arm, that was just so badass.
It was.
And that whole what is the right before the final sequence where the party protocol, is that what it is? The all suits came and how he was just like, he was fighting with Aldrich Killian, right? And he was just cutting through all those suits and he was just jumping from suit to suit. That was just so badass. I love that part of it. So Iron Man 3 had its moments, but overall, I agree. It wouldn't be my favorite. I think Iron Man 1 would be the one that I'd go with big time.
Gotcha.
Something real quick here, something that I learned looking up at this trivia was that Iron Man 3 was the first Iron Man movie to gross $1 billion, and the second Marvel movie to gross $1 billion after Avengers. Let's see here. Oh, and something else that was pretty interesting that I did not know at all is that originally in the post-credit scene for Iron Man 3, Tony was meant to go into space with his deep space armor. He was going to have like a deep space armor. Yeah. And he was going to go into space to meet the Guardians. Did you hear about that one, Cam?
No, I didn't hear about that. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so that's when they were going to introduce the Guardians of the Galaxy. But that was, they scrapped that because Robert Downey Jr. was saying that he may not reprise his role for Tony Stark. And so that was, how that was supposed to be kind of like a nod to Tony being at one point in the Guardians in the comics. Right. And so, they were going to do that. But, Robert Downey Jr. was like, I don't know if I'm going to come back. So it's probably best you don't use that. So they took it out. But the stuff that could have been, that just would have been interesting. But any more thoughts on that? On Iron Man in general? Anyone have any more additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, when you talked about the house party protocol, it made me think about Rhodey when he was like, all right, give me a suit. He was like, all right, buddy.
It's like, all right, give me a suit. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's like, all right, give me a suit. Yeah.
Right, also, one more thing to mention about this particular trilogy. how many collectors have benefited from this trilogy, with Hot Toys,
Yeah.
This is like a staple in most people's collections, or a lot of people's collections, just Iron Man.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then, I mean, Hot Toys are obviously capitalizing on that, right? They just keep coming out with different variations of Iron Man. And, I
2.0s, 3.0s.
Yeah. Yeah, plastics, die cast.
Making them taller, right size, wrong.
Yeah.
The what if line.
See through.
Wait a minute.
Transparent, neon tag, ceramic, copper.
Neon
Yeah, velvet. Yeah. Yeah. Bringing them all. If they're selling them, they're going to bring them out. Real quick, let me jump to the chat right here. I didn't forget about you guys. So Easy Company Collectibles saying Iron Man 2 plus the Mark 5 and 6 being the best suits ever. Right on. Yeah, I definitely have to agree with the suit aspect. I have to think about which my favorite suits. But yeah, those towards the end there when they were just back to back, like you guys mentioned, that final scene, Iron Man 2, were just, what did he say? He was like, you have the big gun, you aren't the big gun. He was telling that was funny.
The kill zone.
The kill zone. Yeah, exactly. See, Ashley Marvel got the line, "I am Iron Man" from the Black Sabbath song. Yeah, that was that Black Sabbath? I want to trust Mike on this one. I know he knows his music. I wonder, if Robert Downey Jr. got that line from there.
I thought Ozzy Osbourne says it too, right? Ozzy Osbourne?
And on the end credits song, right? When they played it, they play that song at the end credits.
I don't know.
Iron, yeah.
I don't remember anymore.
So I wonder if Robert Downey was like, you know what, I'll just use that. It's right there. It's just straightforward. And he's worn the shirts a few times in the movies too, right? Favreau and team did a great job with the story and flow of development of the character. Yeah, that's Bros on Toys. Yep. Action Figure Academy. If you like, then Hulk smash that button. Hulk smash. Appreciate you, Mike. Thank you for the support there on that. Let's see. Iron Man 3 is a Christmas movie. Yeah, that's another good point. That's definitely during like Christmas, and I can see that people were talking about because it takes place during Christmas. I forgot about that aspect of it, but yeah, that's a good point on that one. Broke on Toys is mentioning Abasai with the facts. Yeah. S Beam in the house. What is up, S Beam? Appreciate you stopping by. Thank you, good sir. Let's see here. And we got panelists here doing double duties. Appreciate you guys for interacting there with the chat there. Trevor Slattery is hilarious. Oh, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. That was one thing I didn't like about Iron Man 3, just to find out that the Mandarin was just all an act. I was honestly disappointed about that because I wanted, I knew of the Mandarin from the comics. I didn't really read or know too much of him, but I knew of him. And so it just seemed like a badass character. But then to find out it was just all just that, I was disappointed about it. I tell you the truth. Were any of you guys felt the same about that?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm actually in the minority where I actually was kind of unbothered by it. But I actually did like him more as that scary villain in the shadows versus the comedic relief at the very end. Yeah. But it didn't take anything away from the movie for me. Also, what an awesome Hot Toys we got from that. The Mandarin. Awesome figure.
The Trevor Flattery version?
Yeah, with the chair. So cool.
Is it? Yeah, I didn't get that one. I missed out on that one. Go ahead, Gross.
I'm surprised they brought him back for the Shang-Chi movie. That was fucking wild, dude.
That dude had a good 10 minutes of screen time in that one.
Yeah.
That's crazy, bro. Like, that's crazy, man.
Probably the last person I thought I was going to see in the film, to be honest with you.
There was what?
He was probably the last person I thought I was going to see in the Shang-Chi.
Yeah, same. I honestly thought that movie could have did without it. Like, I didn't really see a reason for him to be there other than just like comedic factor. But that's just another. That's for another stream.
You know what? Okay, never mind. I was like, they don't need a comedic factor with him in that because they had Awkwafina, right? That was her name.
Yeah.
She
Awkwafina,
stole that movie for me.
Yeah, she did.
Every scene that she was in, stole it.
Yeah, I think that's a consensus, right? A lot of people I heard mentioning the same thing. Let's see. So we got Blue showing up, Blue Tattoo. Aaron Collects in the house. What is up, fam? Appreciate you coming through. Let's see who else am I missing. How you figure? Shane Black loves setting his movies at Christmas. Yeah, what's up, everyone? What is up? How you figure? Thank you for coming through. Appreciate you stopping by. Let's see. Sorry if I forget some of you here in the chat or got a lot of comments. But I love it. Just keep the chat active, interact with each other. That's I try to do the same. So appreciate all the comments, and I'll try to get through some of yours there. But again, thanks for watching. Let's see. All right, gentlemen, that was Iron Man. Moving on up. Next up we got the man himself, the man of America, Captain. He went from let's see, first lieutenant to captain. Now he's Captain America. All right, gentlemen. So we got here. Let me pull this up here. First Avenger, directed by Joe Johnston, 2011. Winter Soldier, 2014, directed by none other than the Russo brothers. Civil War, again, the Russo brothers, 2016. And we'll go ahead and start from Zio this time. Carlos, do your thing,
Dude.
man. What are your thoughts on this trilogy here?
First of all, Team Cap, right?
First of all,
let's just get the tone going. Team Cap all the way, man. Just let's just set the facts. No, I'm kidding. So this is like the opposite for me with Iron Man, right? I think it's a slower start. I think Captain America: First Avenger to me was Iron Man 3. And then we kind of worked backwards. Winter Soldier, possibly one of the coolest action movies ever. Not just a comic book movie, but action movie. Some of the fight scenes in that are so amazing. From Bucky flipping that knife and catching it, and just some of the sequences, and even having George St. Pierre in there was freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
But Civil War is my all-time favorite MCU movie. Like, personally, that was my favorite MCU movie. I just enjoyed the way that the characters happen and stuff. But it is kind of hard and difficult to accept that as a Captain America movie, like because there's so many other characters. There's so much going on. I like. It is difficult for me to consider it just a Captain America movie. I know it's the title of the movie, which I'm grateful that it's Captain America and not Iron Man Civil War, because that would have just been disrespect to Cap. But no, I'm kidding. No, but I man, dude, like I said, it flows backwards for me. Like Winter Soldier was like very serious and very like awesome and gritty, but Captain America Civil War brought some fun elements because of all the surprises, the characters that were in there. There was a lot of, like, they did what I think they would have wanted to do with Iron Man 3 by having a lot going on, but they actually executed properly with it. It is like an Avengers movie, like basically they're just fighting each other. But I love these three movies. Like, even the first one, although it's on the slower side, I prefer watching Captain America: The First Avenger over Iron Man 3, just because I like seeing him like as little skinny Steve Rogers, and then going through his transformation, and then going to war, and then also like his character development. Like, he's trying so hard to get into the military. Where in Civil War he ends up getting kicked out and disowned by the country that he tried getting into, right? Like, so it's crazy his story and stuff of like what he goes through from like the full circle. But yeah, man, this is I know we're not ranking yet, but this was one of the funner ones to experience because every movie for me got better. And I know that a lot of people will say that the middle one was probably the best, but I just feel like each one got better because more attributes were included as we went, man.
Yep. Here. All right, Austin, go for it, man. You're up.
So I know I started the Iron Man one with me giving mine and Rachel's scores for the movies. I won't do it with this one because I just don't want all the ratings to be out there yet. I guess we're saving it more towards the end.
Okay,
but fair. I think this is a fantastic trilogy. I'm going to echo what Carlos just said. It is kind of the opposite of Iron Man. I do think the first Captain America is the weaker of the trilogy. And the neat thing about that one is, like with Iron Man, they're kind of doing world building the same time as that movie's going on. They're not necessarily doing world building with this. It is set in the past, right? So they're setting up certain characters, but it's more so focused on who he is before the serum, right? And I mean, he's just like we thought he would be. Never backing down from a fight, consistently doing what he thinks is right, despite being told something different. So we see that, which is fantastic. Another thing is Russo brothers. They need to do more because Captain America: Winter Soldier is, just like Carlos said, one of the best action movies ever. Fantastic. Espionage was awesome in this.
Yep.
I loved Bucky in this. That this is peak for me with Bucky. I'm actually in that field where I kind of wish Bucky would have became Captain America, would possibly become Captain America in the future. I think that'd be an awesome arc for him, you know? But yeah, there's a lot to say about Civil War. I absolutely love Civil War. It's kind of hard to just make that a Captain America movie, even though it is.
Yeah.
But man, I have very few negatives about this trilogy to nitpick. Honestly, I love it absolutely.
Oh.
Except for first one, pacing could be a bit slower.
Yeah.
Honestly, I almost never think to myself, "Hey, let's watch the first Avenger."
Yeah.
You know, it's always like a Winter Soldier or like a Civil War
Yeah.
thing for me.
I've seen Civil War like 100 times, bro. Like,
Yeah.
Dude, that's a movie you can just put on and enjoy, and I don't
Yep.
necessarily have to watch any before or after it.
Yeah.
I literally go to I literally go to my parents' house. I sit down, like, I want to watch Civil War.
I'll say something too. So in like Winter Soldier, the elevator scene.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
How cool of a scene is that?
Yeah.
So badass. Yeah. One of them in that movie. It's just one of those of a cool scene in that movie. Cam, you're up, man. Go ahead. Let it rip.
Yeah, man. What a trilogy this one is right here. They could say that this one kind of led into a bigger picture also of what the MCU can be created into. I would say the first one, like everyone else said, is probably my least favorite, right? I mean, like it's a great starter, great origin story. The only time you're going to see a guy running through Brooklyn barefooted chasing down somebody. But I just think honestly the story was a little bit shortened, right? Because like we know Red Skull is like this menace that just keeps coming back and fighting Captain America over and over. And it was just like, well, time's up. That's it. He's gone, you know? But I still think the story altogether was a great origin story. Also a continuation into what we see later on into Avengers, as well as the Winter Soldier as well. I'm going to go to the third one, which is Civil War. Civil War was a great film because it introduced so many it actually introduced only 2 new characters to us, really. We got to see a little bit more of the humanized side of Bucky, I guess you could say. But then also we got the introduction of Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, as well as we got to see Tom Holland for the first time as Spider-Man, which I thought was super cool. I mean, because we had, reoccurring characters like, Falcon, who's the ride or die, as well as Wanda and Ant-Man, again, in this film. But I love the story of the band breaking up, right? And then we got like that weird I hate you bromance start, coming together for Bucky as well as Falcon as well.
Yeah.
So, you get to see all these different character dynamics, the pieces that are pulling them, from left to right to be on 2 different opposite sides to eventually, we know that they come back together at the end, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Real quick, let me add to that real quick. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, like, going back to Civil War, like what you just said about the band breaking up. That was one of my favorite parts about that was who broke it and for what reason.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was just like fantastic, like relatable, understandable, and like that it was just a person looking for revenge, right? Like that just was the beautiful aspect of it, man. It wasn't like some freaking crazy robot, some alien. Like it was legit just a person, which to me, like the conclusion of that with even Black Panther saving him and that little moment that they had at the end was so good, man. So good.
Hey Cam, can I interject as well? I'm so sorry. You just stemmed so
only
much.
one
sparking thoughts here.
So to touch what Carlos just said, how awesome of that is it that in Civil War, they're able to split the team in half. And yet, even with fans, like, people choose a side. They're like, no, man, like, it's this. Like, this is the reasoning behind, like, Iron Man wanting to do this. Or, like, Captain America, this is it. And, like, the team gets behind it, right?
Yeah.
And they all make their independent decisions, and they choose their sides. And the props to the Russo brothers, because sometimes with movies, when you have such a large cast, it can feel a bit convoluted, right?
Yeah.
Things feel shoehorned. It doesn't flow super well. More people get screen time than others. Sometimes with those entrances of amazing characters like Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Chadwick's Black Panther, sometimes it doesn't feel great because the movie itself is so convoluted. Now with Civil War, I think Civil War flowed not... The movie flowed so well, but if you think about how many characters are in this, right? Not just in the background, but they're in this. Like, they're pivotal to this movie. And like Cam said, we had 2 big introductions, and those were awesome introductions. Like, we felt what Black Panther was going through. We felt what Chadwick was going through. And then Tom Holland's, I mean, that was just joyous, at least for me. You know, the airplane fight scene, all that was awesome. So sorry, Cam. I just had
man. Those great points.
He's excited.
It's honestly a great film. Like I said, I mean, like the character dynamics that develop in it, and the relationships that break apart that essentially come back together at the end, are what makes it such an amazing film. But of course, my favorite one has to be Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I'm biased because I live 20 minutes from Washington, D.C., and a lot of this movie was shot in Washington, D.C., so I get to see a lot of spots that I took my girls down actually today to the Smithsonian Museum, so I got to walk past a lot of these areas that they shot this movie at.
I was just there last month.
Oh, were you? Oh, yeah, man. It's a lot of walking out here. So,
were you walking around that pool going, I'll put it on the left.
On your left.
On your left. Yeah.
Bro, it's crazy just to see like all the spots and different locations. But of course, it's nonstop action. And I think this was the first film that we really got to see how well trained Nick Fury really is, though. Because before, I mean, he was just kind of like, he kind of just seemed like, master commander, the guy in the chair that's telling, pointing people out what to do and where to be. But here you got to see him in that truck scene where he was like, I think he had a fractured arm and was sitting there and timing out when to shoot this window out so he could go speed off in that Escalade. I thought he was gone. I was like, oh, well, he's toast. There's no way that guy's coming back. I already got one eye. Ain't no way he's going to escape by this. But yeah, we got to see really just how strong these characters really are, or either how witty they honestly are in the toughest situations. And I think it was great because also this film a lot of the Captain America films seem to introduce new characters each time, which they should. And this one introduced Falcon at this time. And of course, it kind of continued what we had seen in the first film, that eventually, your past does catch up with you, which is the Winter Soldier. And I think all these films honestly do some type of metaphorical, sense, like the second one is like, your past always catches up to you. The third one, Civil War, is like what you do in the dark always comes to the light. And then the first one is more so, the underdog story, which makes sense. So, I mean,
hey, can I pick you guys' brain on something?
Well said, Cam.
Okay, so Cam, you kind of brought this up, and I've been kind of thinking about this. I'm a big movie fan, right? I'm not big into comics. I never really got into it. My brother's massive. My little brother's big into comics. That's his thing. I have some. My kind of big thing about the first Captain America movie is this, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, right? Or looking at this the wrong way. One of the things I kind of don't like is we kind of just saw him as a marketeer for the military. And just when I think Captain America, I think of this guy who's had and granted, he has field experience, right? We see it. But in my head, I'm always thinking he has so many years of all these operations and all this field work that he does. But in the movie, it kind of feels like a couple days of just field work. Yeah. And the rest of it was just like marketeering, So that's one thing that's kind of always not bothered me, but it's kind of been there, right? But also it could just be a good testament to who he is as a person. He just knows what to do at the right time with the right people in his field. So
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you have ever thought of it like that, or it just
No,
me
I
overthinking
think
it.
that makes sense because like it did seem like he was just like on the marketing front as far as like trying to get Bell's bonds and all that other stuff, and that did
Yeah.
happen throughout the comic, but it was like a shorter period, eventually until he decided I'm just going to jump into it, right?
Mhm.
And it's weird because like Captain America has been around so long as a character because essentially part of that time that he was around, he was under ice,
Yeah.
and there's been other people that have taken up the mantle and fulfilled it. It's crazy because in the comic, there's been over like 7 people that have been Captain America.
Wow, didn't realize there were that many. Damn.
Yeah, there's a lot, and like
Yeah.
I don't know all the names offhand, but some of them were
Yeah.
like just some random guy just
Who's
putting
your
a suit on.
favorite? Who's your
He got
favorite?
killed. He got killed, matter of fact, and I was like,
Who's your favorite, Cam?
I say. So we don't hear much about this character, but I would say Isaiah Bradley's my favorite, just because we haven't heard a lot about him.
Okay,
He was like slightly featured in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, the Disney
Yeah.
Plus show, and we got to see like a little brief stint of him. But I feel like if they really told that story, which hopefully they will in the next Captain America New World Order, I think it is.
That'd be dope.
They
Get him
have to, right?
to revisit that story.
Be
These
featured
would
in it.
be fun Easter eggs that come to good fruition.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that was an emotional scene with Falcon. When he found out that Isaiah,
Well,
who he was.
Cam. With that being said, like, Bradley, as I say, was it Isaiah Bradley? Was that was his name?
Yep.
He was mainly Captain America, like back in the day, right?
Yeah, during the Vietnam War, I believe.
So, it'd be interesting how the MCU takes that with the Fantastic Four being set in the past.
It's true.
Like that could be a potential of a universe that takes place back in the day. Like that'd be really cool, or just seeing things like that. So that would be dope too. But I know that they tease like even like a younger generation of Isaiah Bradley, right? They tease some characters that were there. So I know he showed up briefly as well. So it's crazy. Go ahead, Cam.
Oh no, yeah. So I don't know how they're gonna sway it or do it because his time was supposed to be like only in Vietnam, right? Like he took up the shield, but he did it out of direct orders from leaving the military. So he got reprimanded for it, and I think he got like stripped of his ranks, and there's a bunch of stuff that went into it. But I don't know if they they want to trickle down that path because it could go darker than a lot of people want to see in a new Captain America movie. Less positive. It's gonna go a lot less positive than you would think they want to show. So this is.
But that's the story. Maybe that's kind of what we're needing, right? Look, I'll take that over Love and Thunder. For me, that's just way too far leaning into the comedy and too lighthearted.
Yeah.
Whereas I kind of miss some of these more grounded, darker, like the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I was gonna say Winter Soldier.
Some more flicks like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what a time for it too. If they were
I know, right?
Like that.
They need that. Yeah.
I forgot about the whole Isaiah Bradley scene. It's been a minute since I've seen Falcon and Winter Soldier or Captain America and Winter Soldier.
And I'm happy I asked you that question now.
Yeah, and honestly, the Isaiah Bradley really stuck with me because they made the character grow up in Baltimore, which is not far from me either. So like, I was like, oh crap, it's like all these little areas, that are very close to where I'm at. Which I thought was cool. So
yeah, that's awesome. You get to stop by if you want whenever you can, anyways, and go visit those. Just stroll, again, go running around the pool.
I know, it's like right there. But that shield building's not there, everybody. So if you go over there, that's Roslyn, Virginia, you will find nothing. There's
it was destroyed. That's why. Yeah, they've been. The hydro has been outed. That's why I had to take it down, relocate. So yeah, man. So there's not too much I can say that you guys didn't already say, but but I'll just say I agree. Each one got better than the previous one. Captain America, when I first saw it, I didn't really the first Avenger. It didn't really stick with me that much, but it wasn't until later on I gave it another try. I went back and watched it again, and I actually ended up liking it. I think like the second or third time. I think it was the second time I watched it. Like, wow, this is actually better than I remembered. But still, I think out of the three, it'd be my least favorite. The other two movies, though, when the Russo brothers took over, like you guys said, it was just they just nailed it and they killed it. So many powerful, impactful scenes in both movies. Winter Soldier, just Captain America fighting for his friend, regardless, just having him push through. Steve Rogers, just going and realizing who it was and just like, not giving up on him. Even towards the end there, he just eventually like got him to think about what he was doing, what Bucky was doing. Yeah, the fight scenes alone. Speaking of, so one thing I learned here about the Winter Soldier is that the Russo brothers wanted to use as little visual effects or special effects as possible in the movie. They wanted everything to be natural and real. Yeah, practicality.
Round of applause for that too,
dude.
Yeah,
respect.
yeah. Here we go. Let me do that here. There we go. Good job. Good call, Richard. And you felt it too. Yeah, it was legit, man. You can feel like everything in the movie just felt natural, just felt real. It was just awesome. And yeah, practical effects and sets and actual sets where possible. You were talking. I think it was you, Carlos, who was talking about Winter Soldier, like Bucky's knife sequences and his movements. And so to train for that, let's see here. I thought I had it here. He was, so during filming, Sebastian Stan, he walked around all day practicing with a plastic knife, just so that way, when he actually went to go film his scenes, it would just feel natural. So he was just like walking around pacing, just, with his fingers and his knife and just like making that noise too. Added effect there. But yeah, it was, and again, it just added to the effect. And, yeah, he just killed it, man. Just those action scenes were awesome. Let me see. I'm trying to think of what else I got for Winter Soldier. I think, yeah, overall, it just got better. And then Civil War, there was a lot of people introduced in this one, but I still consider it a Captain America movie. Yeah, because to the core of it, it was still about Steve protecting his friend, right? I mean, people were trying to go after him, and he was like, it wasn't his fault. What he did, he was brainwashed, and then, then that kind of ties into the whole morality. It's the reason why we have a Civil War, which is another aspect I love about it. And I think Austin, you mentioned this. I never read this comic or the arc in the comics. I knew of it, but even not having had read that arc and watching this movie, it's just something that I always am fascinated with. And anytime they bring up this type of situation in any movie, it's just testing our morality, right? What we think is right, what we think is wrong. And then they each had their point of view, Iron Man and Captain America, and their sides of what they were doing. They both believed what they were doing was right. And Captain America even addressed that, right? Steve Rogers even addressed that in the movie. He told Tony, he's like, I know what you think you're doing is right, but I got to do, what did he say? Like, I'm looking out for my friend, basically. Or maybe it was the other way around. I can't remember. Someone said to that effect, but it was just, man, that whole Sokovia Accords thing. Tony's like, we got to take responsibility for what we did. Speaking of, in the beginning of that movie, where Wanda accidentally kills, people, I think it was a hospital, right?
Yeah.
And, and just that moment where she's just really sad and she felt obviously like she feels really guilty. And then Steve walks over and just has that discussion. It's like, hey, we can't always save everybody. It's just part of the job. And that's something you just basically got to accept. And it's hard, but we got to do what we got to do. Just like those moments like that in these movies are just, oh man, they just got to me, because it's just, that's reality. I mean, that's truth. You don't have to be the hero to know that. And it's just, powerful scenes in both these movies. One thing I also read about Civil War that was just that really, man, that could have changed. Things could have been a lot different had not went the way it happened. But so the writers were initially going to focus more on Spider-Man, right? So this is the time where they just got the rights to Spider-Man, Marvel did from Sony.
Yeah.
And so they put him in there. And so, and rightfully so, right? Because again, based on the comics, Spider-Man was an integral part to Civil War arc, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were going to get in there and they were going to focus more on Spider-Man and give Black Panther a smaller role. But they were still they hadn't confirmed it yet, so there was still uncertainty on whether they can get the rights to Spider-Man. And so they ended up flipping it, and they gave Black Panther, T'Challa, the bigger role in that one instead. And then when Spider-Man, when they actually got the rights and everything was confirmed, they had already made Civil War or Black Panther's role in Civil War just so big, it was so integral already that it was just already too late. And so they left it as is. And it was just like, man, can you imagine if they flipped it back to Spider-Man and gave Chadwick Boseman, who we all love and adore now. Rest in peace. A smaller role in that, he wouldn't have had as big an impact on
Yeah.
the MCU
Dude.
as he
And
did.
I'm
I don't
so
think.
happy we got what we got this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Still my
crazy, though?
favorite. Still my favorite suit of Chadwick Boseman too. The Civil War suit was
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
favorite suit, man. Like I really enjoyed that suit a lot. So yeah, man. Yeah, it was the
Also,
best
talk
decision they
about a
could have gone.
hero entrance where
Yeah.
Black Panther was it? He runs, he jumps, he lands on the rooftop, and like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
scene we get of him.
Yeah.
That was awesome. So
was.
cool.
Yep.
Stand
Just
out.
land the superhero pose. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hell, they nailed it with Spider-Man too. I mean,
Yeah.
both instances, they nailed the entrances. Not only
Yeah.
just the characters in the movie, but the entrances
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
of Black Panther and Spider-Man. Awesome. I think
Yeah.
one of the big things you said, I think that's why I love the Russo brothers so much, or the feel that they give us,
Yeah.
is the realism in their movies. Like you mentioned, a lot of this filming on set, practical effects. At no point am I ever feeling blinded by CGI or like
Like in your face,
Quantumanium, right?
just-
Like
yeah.
like
right.
with Quantumanium, right? The entire time, it is just CGI and a green screen, right? And audiences, we know this as we're watching this, but when I watch like Winter Soldier or Civil War, I'm never thinking that. I actually am thinking they're there, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that's
Yeah.
crazy. Tony Stark had to learn how to fly for this role. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard that took
No,
months. Yeah. Almost
dude.
a year,
No,
I think.
dude. I honestly, there's some things that I want to talk about real quick about this because like we were just
Yeah.
talking about it, but the memes that came out of fucking Civil War is hilarious too. Like the Rogers did you know scene is so
Oh, yeah.
hilarious. I've seen
Yeah.
some funny memes on that, but also the quote that one of the funniest quotes I've heard is Black Widow when she's like, do any of you guys know where the Smithsonian's at? I'm here to pick up a fossil. I thought
Yeah.
that was so
Yeah.
freaking hilarious.
language.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yes, but also somebody mentioned, I think it was S Beam or Blue, that this is the 10-year anniversary of the Winter Soldier. So hopefully that means a rooted Winter Soldier, a rooted Black Widow.
I
For
can
Winter
use those.
Soldier,
Yeah.
those two would be nice. And then the last thing I wanted to add to this was the impacts that Civil War had after that movie, right?
Mhm.
Like that is the reason why the Avengers were separated in Infinity War.
Yeah.
And then it
Mhm.
made it so much better when they came together in Endgame, right?
Yeah.
Because the band was broken up, like Cam said, and now we come back to Infinity War from this, and like they have to fight two different battles because they weren't on good terms and stuff. So
Yeah.
it had some serious implications,
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I think about Tony walking around with that burner phone for 5 years.
I know, right? Like,
We're not on speaking terms right now. Like,
okay,
what? All right.
That shows like that undying love though. Still,
Yeah.
You know,
bro, that was funny too. The fact that he sent him that burner phone, like, it's
Yeah.
so
burner
freaking like
phone.
it's like the most Steve Rogers thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, send him a flip. I'm surprised he didn't send a beeper, like,
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh man. But something else that Austin touched on that I definitely agree with, Zemo.
Yeah.
I would have to say he would
Oh, yeah.
he would be my second favorite villain in the MCU.
Great actor,
Yeah,
Mhm.
man. Great. Yeah, great actor.
Daniel Bro.
Is that his name? Daniel? Yeah, Brühl. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
Daniel Brühl.
Brühl.
Yeah,
Yeah, he just who did he say? Like, I think he said it himself in the movie, but he was just a man, right? He just wanted revenge,
Yep.
but he didn't have any special abilities. He wasn't some big international criminal, or just like a small time criminal. He just wanted revenge, and all he needed was patience and just careful planning, right? Which is any of us are capable of, and he just put it to work. And man, and he did what a lot of other villains would have liked to or tried to do. And that was just, man, it was just really, again, impactful. It's just this guy, he went through the trouble and he successfully did it. And yeah, that was just awesome. I just because of that, and then just how I think how well thought out his character was, I think he'd be my second favorite villain above Loki. I know a lot of people like Loki, but for me, it would be
Same, man.
Thanos and
Yeah.
Zemo.
Yeah.
Zemo's a good
Same.
case of the pen being mightier than the sword.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Definitely. Turkish delights.
Did you say Turkish delights?
Turkish delights. Yeah. You love
yeah. One another thing that I piece of trivia that I found out that was pretty funny is that talking about impactful moments, the day before filming the fight scene with Robert Downey Jr., Sebastian Stan sent Downey Jr. a video of himself working out doing bicep curls in front of like a decapitated Iron Man suit.
Oh my
he
god.
messaged him looking forward to our scene tomorrow, Robert. And I can just imagine him being like, oh yeah, you want some of this, baby? Yeah. It's just funny, but that just kind of also leads into another scene that I thought was really impactful. Is just those situations, right, where Tony finds out that it was Bucky that killed his parents, and just the thought process again of the time commitment that the MCU had in their whole movies, right, to tie it back to Iron Man, from the original trilogy or from that other trilogy. It's just, you find out that what Tony had gone through was because of Bucky, and just to tie that, it was just so smart. I was just like, oh man. And then just that impact where he looks at Steve and it's like, did you know? And I was just on my toes to see what he would say. And when he said yes, I was like, oh man, that was just, yeah. I was like, damn.
I agree with that. I think that's another reason why these movies do so well. Winter Soldier and Civil War, we actually feel something in these, right?
Yeah.
In the Russo brothers, they allow us to dwell in this too. And I don't want to just keep nitpicking some of the other MCU movies, but there's there's a couple that I feel like they don't want any other feelings besides a couple laughs here and there. But with Civil War and Winter Soldier, there's some awful moments that we kind of have to sit through and watch and feel. And that's what I want out of a movie. And they do these so well.
Yeah.
It's just like you said, the whole did you know? Like that, all that's gut wrenching because you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That was tough. Man. Oh man, so I want to go watch it again now. Go ahead.
Dude, that scene where he's like, I knew I couldn't destroy them. More powerful men than me have tried. But if I could get them to destroy them themselves, like that'd be crazy, right? Like that freaking quote was like, it's, dude, like back to what Austin said about the pin being mightier than the sword. Like, that dude, you could quote him all day, like he was on it, bro. Like that dude was on fire. Like, he was. Like, dude. So man, that's one figure I know a third party company did, but I wish I would have gotten a Daniel Bro head sculpt with it. I don't know if the third party figure came with that or not, but.
Do you want the head sculpt so you can do the dancing scene from Captain America and Winter Soldier?
No.
Yeah, Cam knows.
No. Definitely not from that. But
him and Bully McGuire side by side.
Dance off with Star-Lord. Yeah, dude. Oh man, like that dude, man, he really is a phenomenal villain, man. I think he's a very underrated villain in the MCU. I don't think enough people speak on his behalf.
I agree.
No, but I'm so happy that they brought him back too. This is one of those examples I'm really happy because Marvel sometimes has a bad thing where they won't bring back villains. A lot of them are kind of like a one and done. Most of them don't linger in the back, which I wish they would sometimes. Like, I wish there was an Ultron just kind of lingering somewhere. We just don't know when it lingering. If there's one quality I hate in a person, it's lingering. If anybody knows that movie, I love you. Pineapple Express.
No strings on me.
I could linger, man. Yeah.
that does make sense though, because like, I mean, they do have a couple characters that they have had linger, right? So like, of course, we got to see Batroc again, right, in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, who was in that ship scene.
GSP,
Captain America, the Jumper, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, like, what's his name? Jean-Pierre? Or it's like
Saint Pierre, GSP.
Yeah, Saint Pierre.
Yes.
I'm like, man, if they would have gave us that figure, man, I would have been like, I've been all over it.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have like the little like mask, but I was like, it's just a cool concept, of having that character, I thought. So,
also, one thing that does suck is that I hear they're not bringing him back for Thunderbolts.
GSP.
No. Daniel Bro.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Zemo, that's gonna be a big, like, I think to me that was like one of the things that I was really looking forward to about that movie, and now I'm kind of going away from that because, dude, it would have been great to see him again, man. But who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe he'll pop up. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
He's one of those characters like that. I would be excited to see how he interacts with someone else, like of a
Yeah.
different personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we talked highly about Whiplash during like the Iron Man trilogy,
Mhm.
but the thing is, I wouldn't be excited to see him interact with other people.
No,
With
he's
you
not
mean
good.
Whiplash?
No, because that's not
Interacting
his
with
thing.
He's not good.
He too standalone kind of guy.
Oh,
you know?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, Zemo. I want to see him riff with other people. I want to see if he's gonna get along with them. What is he gonna say? How is he gonna say it? Is he gonna be super confident? Is he gonna be sneaky or snarky? That's what I want to see.
He's
I'm gonna
such
go
a
back.
good character, man. Now that you
Oh,
brought it
third
up, I
party.
mean,
Enhance.
he's such a good
Oh
villain.
man, that looks good. Wow.
Crazy.
That's a third party?
I think Blue was the one telling me about it.
Actually,
so yeah,
looks
Oh,
really
okay.
good.
yeah,
Realistic.
it does. Yeah, so I might actually go back and try to find that.
Oh man.
He's such a good villain that, like, in Civil War, he made you forget that there was a villain besides.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they're just fighting each other. You're like, oh wait, there's a whole guy that they need to stop at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
God.
I forgot about him.
kind of to your point, man. I mean, I think once again another good testament to how and why he's such a good villain. We can understand, right?
Yeah.
Like we can understand how or why he's feeling and what he's feeling.
Right.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we don't
for sure.
have to justify the actions, right?
Right.
But we can understand. Like, oh yeah, you're coming from this place of pain. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, like,
Exactly.
you know, we love villains like the Joker. You know, it's chaos just to
That's
be
true.
chaos, right? It's
Yeah.
unpredictable. But there's not really sympathy there most of the time. I know there's some stories, but at surface level, there's really no sympathy. But with like a character like Zemo, like you get it, like you get that hardship. So
Yeah.
Sure.
Especially that reveal at the end where you find out the message he was listening to from his wife was that was it just a message when this whole time you thought he was talking to her.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
Then, and then he actually
Oh, yeah.
reveals that they were killed by I think the Avengers, right, during that one of the
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
the Sokovia fight in
Yeah.
Avengers 2, Ultron.
and it was
once
just like,
again,
man,
depth of character and emotion. That's what I
Yes.
want, baby. Look, I don't want to
Bring
say
it.
this too much. Like that's why I love Magneto. Like the
Say
character
it
of
one more time,
Magneto.
just for the camera.
The reason why I love Magneto so much, this is a guy who saw his friends and family
Yes.
suffer some horrendous things during the Holocaust, right? And he couldn't do
Yep.
anything to save them.
Yep.
Now you flash forward, he sees his own people, his friends, his family, people like him are being persecuted and going through this thing he saw get done before. And he now has the power to change it. Like that's the motive. Like you get it, you understand it, you get the pain, you get the emotion behind it. That's why I love in a villain.
Yep, I'm right there with you, man. And speaking of, glad you brought up Magneto. Another thing that could have been that I read that was interesting. So in the first Avenger, there were plans to do cameo appearances with Logan and Magneto, because they would have been around during World War II. So they were originally planned to be in the movie, but because Marvel didn't have the rights issues yet, they scrapped that idea. But they were gonna try to get them in the movie. Oh man, can you imagine if they would have appeared there?
That'd been crazy.
Ooh, it would have been crazy.
Dude, they can do so much now, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now they're like, the pool is just open. You know.
Yeah.
Just
Open the
An
floodgates.
exciting year to be a superhero.
Who do you want? All right. Bring
Yeah.
him in.
All right, let me. I think we talked about this one a good amount here, but for good
Yeah,
reason. Good movies all around. So let me pop in and see with some of the folks here in the chat. Let's see here. Action Figure Academy saying, "I love the first Avenger, the Howling Commandos, baby." Yeah, that was the name of Steve's group, right? Yeah, the Howling Commandos.
Fire.
Let's see here. Stealth. He's also saying Stealth Suit Cap.
That'd be
Let's
fire.
see-
I got that.
Yeah, Blue Tattoo. As good as Winter Soldier is, I'd have to say I like the first Avenger a little bit more. Okay, that's fair. That's one. Not a lot of people like that movie, so that's good to hear. That's that there's that is over their other two. That's
I like
an
those
interesting
difference
take.
of opinions.
Yeah, same. It's good to know that there's people out there who kind of like the things that not other people do. So respectful there. Winter Soldier is the best one in my opinion. Yeah, it's up there for me. I need to go through and actually do a ranking, but yeah, it is definitely up there. I think
Rank them, man. You won't be disappointed. Save your list because I refer back to it all the time.
Which one? The Winter Soldier?
I have like this MCU list with Rachel going where we rank all the movies and rate them.
Yeah, I've been following that on your stories. That's right. Those are kind of fun to see how yours and hers.
So Carlos knows I'm super indecisive. Like if you were to ask me who my favorite anything is or top 3, dude, I'm awful.
All right, here you go. Austin, sausage or bacon? Go.
Bacon. Oh, that one's an easy one. That one's an easy
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Pancakes or waffles? Go.
That's a hard one.
Oh, got him.
That's a hard one. Yeah. I'm gonna go waffle. I ate a waffle recently, so.
Okay, just because of that, yeah. Just because you ate one recently, that's it. It won. On your left, yeah, he's saying here, going through up here. Let's see here. Everyone's saying what's up to each other. I'd love to see it. Let's see here. Going Black Panther.
It'd be hilarious if they did a what if show episode and they did on your right just for
yeah. What if he said on your right and it just ended? Yeah.
Yeah. No, now that doesn't even sound correct at all.
I know it sounds
on
weird.
Your right?
On your right.
On your right.
Slow either, you know.
Collector Joey in the house saying that Black Panther and Spider-Man's appearance in Civil War was good. Yeah. I think I remember that's one of those scenes where when Spider-Man was shown, he got a lot of cheers and applause on that one.
That's one of those good theater experiences where the crowd laughs at the right time, they clap at the right time.
Yeah.
They all oh or ooh at the same time. That was Civil War. Perfect.
Yeah. Yep. That's why I love going to see movies. Like this, a fan that has a lot of a big fan base on opening night, just because those are like the real fans, like the fans of the genre of the franchise, and those are the ones who are more expressive, right? The ones who are actually engaging and doing the cheering and yelling. It's just cool. Especially in No Way Home when they did those other 2 Spider-Man appearances. Oh man, my theater was just going crazy. It was just a good feeling. We're like, oh yeah.
Look, I don't know. I don't know if y'all agree with this, but I also miss the times of like having to wait in line for a ticket to reserve your seat. I remember like The Force Awakens. I mean, this isn't long compared to a lot of people, but I was in line for 5 hours when The Force Awakens came out, right? Because I wanted to be in the very front.
Yeah,
I wanted to take my good seats and whatnot.
First come, first serve.
Yeah, but those 5 hours of lead time going into it, you're there with fans. Like, the people around you who are willing to wait that long, those are diehards, you know? Not any normal person is going to wait 5 hours to watch a movie, you know?
Right.
And those experiences were amazing, and we're not going to get them again.
Yeah,
I will say pre-ordering tickets has made my life a lot easier.
Oh man,
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
like it'll still be day one.
Am I going to do that for a movie nowadays?
Yeah, I know, right?
It would have to be like a big one, like Secret Wars or something of that magnitude. You know?
Yeah. Yep. We've done it for early screenings, and dude, early screenings is a whole different game, right? Like, I'll agree with you on like if I had early screening tickets for Secret Wars, I'd definitely be there, bro. Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Ooh. The convenience factor, especially as you get older, right? And you're like, I'm good not waiting outside in the cold.
As you're getting older, your hourly time is kind of valued quite a bit more than 19 and 20, you know?
Yeah.
We're going to start being able to tell age by these movies, bro. Be like, well, how old were you when you saw that movie?
I know, right? Yeah.
You have to wait in line?
Yeah. What?
It wasn't straight. Tickets? It wasn't straight on demand, like
I know, right?
Yeah. And that's crazy because my daughter's 6, and we went to my grandma's house the other day. This is just totally off topic, and sitting there talking to my grandmother in the kitchen, and my daughter comes over, and there's a house phone, and she's like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? She's like, "What is this?"
It's the Steve Rogers burner. It's the Steve Rogers burner.
It's like on the wall. She's like, "What is this?" I was like, "It's a phone." And she's like, "No, it's not." So I call myself. She's like, "Daddy?" I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "It's a phone."
Like, what?
Cam, I saw someone say VCR tape.
Oh, she'll be. Her mind will be blown. She'll be like,
"You mean VHS?"
Yeah, VHS. Yeah,
VCR. Yeah.
Well, I mean, did you guys see that? You know, is it Best Buy that's no longer selling physical media?
Correct.
For movies and TV, yeah.
It's also been one of those things of like, man, how much longer are they actually
I
going to
know,
keep putting
yeah.
out just
I'm like,
Blu-rays or
ugh.
DVDs? Like, how much longer is that going to go on for?
Yeah.
Like, when are people going to start asking what a DVD is instead of a Blu-ray?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, right? I hope it goes on for a while longer because I'm a big fan of physical media personally. So
Yep.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are physical media. Yeah.
Especially with Best Buy, closing that. I've seen a big outcry for a lot of people.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
very fair.
Yep. Man. So Captain America, we had a lot of thoughts, a lot of good ones on that one. But with that, we got some other trilogies to go over. Going back on to the next one here, we have the God of Thunder himself, Thor. All right, back to you, Cam. I'll go ahead and let you take it away. Start us off on this one.
Man, this is a tough one. This is okay. Well, this trilogy is probably my least favorite trilogy, and I feel bad saying that because it had some high points, but it had some really low points too, right?
Mhm.
So for me, the second one was just kind of like all over the map, right? I thought,
so?
Yeah, no, it was 100%. I mean, with the elves in there, I mean, I get it,
Yeah.
with the dark elves. I mean, it was a great story that they tried to develop into something better, but I don't know. It just seemed like it was just going too left and right, just kind of like off track, honestly.
Okay.
I think the introduction of seeing Loki as kind of trying to change sides was a great strong point to see where or how Loki is going to develop going on further in the MCU. When you go down to the first film, I hated how blonde his hair was. Is that bad?
The
Like
eyebrows too. The eyebrows.
The eyebrows.
The eyebrows were
nailed
bleached.
it.
I was like,
Eyebrows are like bleached blonde.
Yeah, it was like really blonde. And I was like, damn. I was like, wow, this is
He
really
was
like,
big too, bro. He was a unit in the first one too.
That was actually a wig in the first. He was wearing a wig.
Oh, was
on that
it?
one.
That makes
Oh,
sense.
yeah.
I could
Okay,
tell.
yeah, that makes sense now. I mean, but I did like the story of, it seemed very like kid in Camelot type, trying to get the sword out of the stone, Excalibur, like trying to
Yeah.
get his hammer back. But it was a great entry to the character, and it kind of led, I believe, it from the Hulk movie, right? Was I think the end of the Hulk movie, or God, what was? I'm trying to figure out
You
what
talking about the
film it
Incredible
was.
Hulk with
Yeah.
I think the end credit scene is when they're like, I gotta go to Mexico, right?
Yeah, right. They gotta go to Mexico,
Oh,
and,
right.
and
That's right,
boom, they
yeah.
like trickled straight into this with from I think Agent Coulson or something like that. And he trickled
That's
straight
right,
into
yeah.
this, right?
Either
I
that
forgot
or
about
Iron
that.
Man. Actually, you know what?
Yeah,
'Cause
I can't remember. It was one of those two because
Because
those
I
were
think
like the only ones. That were
he
kind of,
goes to Iron Man and he's like, I've been reassigned.
It's Iron Man.
So I think it was Iron Man. Yeah, it was one of the Iron Man.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been a minute. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
It introduced a lot of different characters to us that we know as like staples in the future into the MCU. I did like, I mean, of course, the introduction of Loki. It gave me a lot more insight into the backstory of him. I really didn't know much about the character Loki, except for he was the opposite of his brother, obviously. Didn't realize that he was previously a frost giant that I guess didn't grow anymore, but actually weighs like 700 pounds, right? Right? Crazy. But overall, I mean, the story was pretty good for the most part. But of course, we can get to Ragnarok. I think Ragnarok was honestly the best one out of all of these.
Okay.
I mean, it took place on Sakaar, and then we had, Gladiator version of Hulk. I was only disappointed because we didn't get to see Beta Ray Bill.
Oh, yeah.
And we got to see him on the Grandmaster's, like, I guess, tower.
Yeah.
He's just one of the, champions. And I was like, oh, man, they're going to introduce all these new characters and stuff. But they didn't. Hela was good enough for me, though, I think. I mean, as a villain, out of these three, she was definitely the most menacing. And
yeah,
what's the actress name? Catherine?
Kate Blanchett.
Oh,
Kate
yeah.
Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett, yeah.
She did such a great job in this, man. And I wish she didn't die. So, I just think this one was probably the best one altogether. And it was obviously not only a redemption story, but kind of just trying to find your purpose story for Thor. I mean, it took him 3 films to figure out who he wanted to be. And honestly, it took him 1 more after this to really figure out as well. We won't talk about that one. But yeah, I think it just had so many great action scenes in it. And of course, we got to see Valkyrie as well, which I thought was a really cool character to introduce.
Yep. Austin, go for it.
Yeah, so I like the first Thor movie quite a bit. It's definitely more grounded. Cam nailed it with the off-putting thing about him. Yeah, is the wig and the bleached eyebrows.
I'm gonna
Absolutely.
look him up just for fun.
I actually like the first one because to me, Thor has it's more hubris versus like stupid confidence,
Yeah. Yeah.
which he kind of transcends into. Like when I think of Thor, I do kind of think of him more like in the first one, where it's hubris, not this stupid, childlike, whimsical thing.
Mhm.
Which I'm not going to say much about the second one. Honestly, second one's the second lowest rated MCU movie for me.
Okay.
I'm going to go Ragnarok. Ragnarok is the better of all of these, in my opinion. There is this weird notion I have about this movie.
Okay.
I feel like they got a good response from fans and critics with this movie. And they're like, "Oh, this is the template." They like the humor, and then we get Love and Thunder, and I even think they took a few cues from this and tried meshing into some other films.
Yeah.
And they just like ramped a lot of things up in
Yep.
future works from here, and I think it kind of stems from this. So I have this weird relationship with this movie where I kind of want to dislike it more than I actually like it, because I do like the film. It flows better than the first two, absolutely. It's colorful, it's fun. Yeah, I do wish we had Beto Ray Bill in this, because if anybody's seen like Planet Hulk, like the animated movie,
Yeah.
I haven't yet. No.
awesome,
Yeah.
so awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, another disappointing thing about this is I want to touch on the more like disappointing things for me versus all the good things, because
Okay.
we
Yeah,
know
go
all
for
the
it.
good things. One of the disappointing things is like they did kind of ruin like the Planet Hulk and like World War
Yes.
Hulk with
Yeah.
this.
Yep.
And I
I
know they
agree.
can do it and they can create a scenario elsewhere, but this is kind of like, for those who love the Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, like this was the kind of story that kind of got derailed quite a bit by the MCU. But it works for this movie and the purpose they wanted it to serve. But yeah, it's kind of one of those disappointing things for me. Everything else about this movie is pretty fantastic, though. They did well with Thor, even though, like I said, I didn't like the stupid, whimsical, childlike confidence. But Helen was awesome. Loki, fantastic. I liked Hulk in this quite a bit. Asgard falling. How awesome of a way to end the movie is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a I don't know. I kind of like it. Like I like Infinity War a lot because the villain ends kind of at the end. You know, everything doesn't get wrapped up in a perfect bow. And yeah, things don't get wrapped up in a perfect bow for Thor Ragnarok, and we get to see that in future movies. Them trying to still pick the pieces back up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Good points. All right, Carlos, you're up. Get it.
All right,
Baby.
man. Here's where things get spicy here. Here's my hot take. I think that Love and Thunder to me is similar to Ragnarok, bro. I thought it was the same, like too much cheesiness. I'm not saying that Thor 1 and 2 were great movies, but I definitely thought I liked that dark aspect of
The tone.
Thor. Yeah, like I thought like that tone for his character would have been perfect. And
Yep.
so I enjoyed like 1 and 2. Like they're not like the best movies ever, but I like seeing Loki. I like seeing the elves. Like they had a lot of potential with that, right?
Yeah.
But then we went like real Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor Ragnarok, and I know we'll get to Guardians later, but it just wasn't for me, man. And I honestly, like, I think a lot of people ripped Love and Thunder, and like later on I started seeing a lot of those people go back and say, like, you know what, Ragnarok was kind of similar to that, into the things that they're kind of ripping it for. And I'm not going to speak for like the consistency of Ragnarok in terms of like pacing or like acts in there. I'm just like overall theme, and like for me it just wasn't what I was looking for when I was looking at the Thor movies. So I actually didn't like Ragnarok. It wasn't my favorite like look for Thor. It was, a lot of people like that road worm Thor and stuff like that. Or
Yeah.
Hulk was probably like one of the coolest things in there, seeing him, because that was really the last time we saw Hulk in a full movie, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, that's my hot take on that, man. I actually preferred the tone of 1 and 2 better for that, like uh God, what's it called? I don't know, what do they call it? The like his gods, what would you call it? I don't know
What are
what they're
you like
calling.
the
Like
his
the belief in that religion, I guess, or whatever.
Norse
Like
mythology? Are you talking about Norse
the
or?
Norse mythology. Yeah, the
Oh,
Norse
okay, gotcha.
mythology. Like, if they would have kept going with that, I would have really enjoyed that. Personally, right?
Yeah.
Personally, me. So, but yeah, man, that's where I'm gonna leave it at that. Not the
Har-
best trilogy, but the tone for the last one, just for me, like I was like, love. I at one point, we know we're not talking about Love and Thunder, but I was like, well, I mean, like,
Look,
yeah,
I can agree with you, man. That's what I
yeah,
was kind of trying to get at with like
yeah.
Ragnarok. I
Hmm.
like the film, but then there is this thing in the back of my head where I'm like, I know this is the template that's ruined some other projects for me. 'Cause I knew they took quite a bit from this and like, oh, this did well. If we ramp it up even more, it's going to do even more well, you know.
Yeah,
Yep.
But I like the
Yeah.
tone in the first two. Absolutely,
yeah,
I do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Carlos, you're not alone on that one. So not hot take at all. So it's kind of
Okay.
similar to Blue. Blue mentioned how he liked the first Avenger, kind of going against the grain on that one.
Hmm.
I know, yeah, a lot of people said they like Ragnarok. Obviously, Cam, that was your favorite out of the three. But yeah, I agree with you, Carlos, man. It's just like Austin was saying, I preferred the tone for the first two movies, and I liked where I thought Dark World was a step up from the first Thor. I didn't really like it as much. Overall, I mean, yeah, my least favorite trilogy, but of the three, I did like where they were going, and then they just completely switched up with Ragnarok, and I just wasn't. Yeah, some funny scenes. There were some moments on it. Gladiator Hulk and Gladiator Thor. It was awesome. That was a cool scene. Hella was
He's a
badass.
friend from work.
Yeah, he's a friend. Yeah, I know him. Yeah, yes, yeah. And yeah, that callback again with Hulk just slamming Thor, and then Loki's like, yes, yes. That callback to
Yeah.
Avengers. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
cool. And so it had its moments, but overall, yeah, I agree. I didn't like that they added the humor in it. And to touch on that here, one of the trivia points that I found for this one was that the whole reason that came about was, of course, Taika Waititi's doing. He said he wanted to utilize Chris Hemsworth's comedic talent because I guess he knew he
Mhm.
saw him in some other things and he had comedic roles prior, and he was like, you know what, I want to use that. And then Taika Waititi, obviously, he comes from um,
What We Did
comedy,
in the
right? He
Shadows.
was in What We Did in the Shadow. Yeah, he
Yeah.
did that original movie, and then I think he was a writer for the series, right? Or directed or writer, I can't remember.
Both.
Yeah, and so yeah, I didn't touch on this, but so Thor, directed by Kenneth Branagh, 2011. Dark World, directed by Alan Taylor, 2013. Ragnarok, like I mentioned, Taika Waititi, 2017. And um, so I was curious when I was looking up this information and looking at the directors and the writers. And one thing I noticed about the Dark World that made sense as soon as I read it, who wrote it, and it just clicked why I like it. So that Dark World is my favorite of the three. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but again, the tone and just like the story that was there, the whole the elves and the back and forth between Loki and Thor. So the writers who wrote this one, the writers who did the screenplay for this, they did all three Captain America movies. Same, what is it?
Wow.
Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely.
Wow.
And then Dark World, Christopher Yost also helped write the screenplay for this one, but it was Marcus and Freely. They did all three Captain America movies, which we all talked about on that. So, and I tied it together. I'm like, yeah, it does have like a similar tone to those three movies, and it like totally made sense. And so it just clicked from that point. I was like, oh, okay, that's why Samsonite. I was way off. Yeah. So for me, Thor, Dark World, I think would be my favorite.
That's great.
Out of the three here. Let's see here. So a couple other things I thought were interesting. Austin, as a previous Mr. Olympia, junior Mr. Olympia here, I thought you might appreciate this. So Ragnarok, no, sorry, that's here. Where's it at? Where did it go? I think it was for, Oh yeah, so for Ragnarok, Chris Hemsworth, of course, for all of them he had to work out, but for Ragnarok in particular, um, they were saying that Hemsworth had to bulk up and go back on a strict diet and exercise. So he was working out 6 to 7 times a day, and he had to eat around 6,000 calories. Sorry, 6 to 7 times a week, and he had to eat 6,000 calories a day on average, like around there. And that's just crazy, man. That's just a lot.
It is.
Um,
It explains why he went sleeveless in this one, like
Yeah.
he was like, I ain't gonna do all that work for some sleeves, baby.
Look, hey, one positive about Love and Thunder. How much
Yeah.
more amazing did Chris Hemsworth look in Love and Thunder?
Yeah. Or
Looks
even
so good.
Natalie Portman, she was pretty yoked in that movie too, in that role.
Oh,
Look,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know this. We're not talking about Love and Thunder, but since you just mentioned
Oh damn it.
Natalie Portman and Jane Foster,
Yeah.
I was actually a bit worried about that part going into Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
I had no problem with Jane's character.
Yeah.
I consider
right.
getting that
Actually-
figure too, bro. Like
I actually thought they nailed her really well. I wanted more of it
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I just want to say that 'cause I rewatched
go-
Love and Thunder.
No,
and
no worries.
I
Going-
like Jane Foster in it.
going back to that, I'm not gonna say this is a trivia fact because I'm pretty sure. I read it online. I can't credit the source, but
Yeah.
I remember reading that he got too big in the first movie. His suit was cutting off his circulation in his arms.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, he was too big, too
Too
small,
yoked.
I guess. So I was like,
Yeah.
damn, bro, cut back. It's like,
Yeah, Thor's not that big. Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, the only reason I found out that in the first movie was a wig is because one of the things I read for Thor Dark World is that he actually wanted to grow his hair out. So in the Dark World, that's his real hair. He grew it out for over a year, so it has a more of a realistic
better.
look and as
Looks
compared
better,
to
yeah.
that.
His hair
that.
grew damn fast too. Look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
year?
it did,
It's not that long.
yeah. I know. I was thinking that too.
Rooted version. The rooted version.
Yeah, the root.
Rooted version of that would be sick.
Some of that synthetic Thor wig hair. Yeah. But yeah, so Thor, anyone else got any more thoughts on this before we move on to the next one here?
That scene in the first movie where he's trying to lift the hammer
Yeah.
in that rain, man, what a cool scene. Even though he fails it, it really built up a lot of suspense
Yeah, it
with
did.
what's it called, Clint being up there with the bow and arrow and stuff, and
Yeah.
it was a really cool scene, man. And so that's even though he didn't pick it up in that scene, it was a pretty cool scene that I just wanted to talk about because it stands out a lot to me, man. That was building up that character in that first movie, and I think they did good with that part there.
Oh
really
yeah,
seeing
we
him
got
come
to
down.
see him fight and take down
Mhm.
20 guys in that. That was our
Yeah.
first introduction to Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Clint
You're right.
Barton.
You're right.
Yeah.
So that's badass, man. Just want to talk about that, but yeah.
Yeah, man. For sure. Let's see here. So let me get to the chat real quick. Some of these in the chat. It's Blues. I really like the first one, despite bleach eyebrows, which you guys were mentioning there. He's also saying he likes the Dark World, just needed a better story and villain. Didn't like Ragnarok at first. Unfortunately, it needed repeat viewings to enjoy it for what it is.
Ooh, he touched on something good.
What's that?
A rewatch. Sometimes a
Okay.
rewatch can do wonders for me.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
The two big examples was the David Ayers Suicide Squad. I watched that in theater.
Oh, okay.
I remember walking out, loved it. I was hyped. Me and my brother talking about it. Then I got my ex at the time. I got her to watch it with me, and I think I turned it off halfway through. I was like, "Man, I hyped this movie up so much. I'm
Yeah.
sorry." And then another one was the what was it, 2018? Is that the Power Rangers movie? 2016?
Oh
2018?
yeah.
I don't know
Well,
what
I
year it
watched-
came out.
I watched that in theater, didn't like it. Upon my rewatch, and I've watched it a couple times since then. My rewatch, I was like, "How did I dislike this movie?
Yeah.
This is solid."
I don't think I've seen that one. That's not the latest Power Rangers movie, right?
That's what Bryan Cranston as
Yeah, Bryan
Zordon.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No, I haven't seen that one then. Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
Black.
Yeah, rewatch can be a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
said the same thing about the first Avenger, right? Like the first time I saw it,
Yeah.
I didn't really care for it, and I went back and watched it. I was like, okay, all right. So I
Yeah,
definitely get that. Yep, I can see that. Let's see. Action Figure Academy says 1 and 2 were his favorites. As being too much Taika, not enough Thor. I guess that's for Ragnarok. Blue Tattoo saying Thor. was his first one. Second is the Dark World and Ragnarok. Agree on the tone of the first two. So it's okay to show Thor's Hemsworth's comedy chops, but don't make Thor and the joke in the process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect way to explain it.
Yep.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yep. All right. We got movie canon Geo in the house.
Gio.
Hola, guys. Thanks for coming through, Geo.
DMLO.
All right, here we go. I'm guessing that's an inside joke.
No, that's him. It's speaking Spanish.
Oh, I gotcha. I didn't even catch what you said. I thought it
Not
was
well.
something like,
Not well.
oh, I didn't catch it.
Solo un poquito de español. It's okay, man.
Damn. Let's
Yeah,
just do
there
the
we
rest of
go.
the stream in Spanish. Let's go.
Yeah.
The subtitles not for me, guys.
Vamos.
I got the
Yeah.
translator out.
All right, here we go. With that, Ant-Man, baby. We got the next one here. We got a couple
Shit.
more. We got this one and another trilogy, and that'll round out our discussions here. But with the who would we end with on last time? Was that Yuzio on Thor?
I think it's Austin's
that
turn to
Cam?
go first. I think we all went first, unless you go first.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, Austin, go for it, buddy. Ant-Man.
Yeah, I like the Ant-Man trilogy. I think it's consistent, if anything, right? First two, I don't really have a whole lot of complaints, and I don't have a lot of overt praises for it. It's grounded, which I like. It's more simple than some of the other films in the MCU. They're not these massive world threats, and I kind of like this more quote-unquote street-level feel that this brings. I like the sense of humor in Ant-Man, and it makes sense in Ant-Man, right? The one I want to talk about the most is the third one, Quantumanium. Okay. I just rewatched this movie, and it got even worse for me.
The opposite effect.
Yeah, you know what? This movie really fell apart for me. CGI fast. Way too much CGI to the point where I just knew I was watching a movie the entire time instead of being absorbed into the movie and forgetting about everything around me. I knew everything around me and was looking at the screen the entire time, if that makes sense at all. But the biggest thing is, besides MODOK, the biggest thing for me is Jonathan Majors. I love Jonathan Majors as an actor. Not touching on anything else besides him being an actor. Phenomenal, massive fan. And I was extremely hyped for Kang. And Kang, for me, is the absolute best part of this movie. Steals it for me. The tone around the entire... I don't think he fits super well with Ant-Man and the tone that they had for it.
Yeah.
It's like the worst thing is the fact that this movie kind of means nothing anyway. Now. And he was so good. The other big thing is I hated the fact that this variant of Kang lost, or that we saw him lose in this. Granted, they could have brought him back or whatnot, but at this point, it's not the case. So he lost in this. And he was supposed to be the feared one, right? All the other variants were scared of him. The man got pieced up by Ant-Man. I mean, Kang had some good licks in there and whatnot, right? But this is they had like this, what is it, 2-minute fight scene, fisticuffs, hand to hand at the very end, and Ant-Man should not be piecing them off.
Ain't no way.
No, man, and that was like the biggest thing for me in this movie. And like, they wanted Kang to be this. Not just a universal threat, a multi-universal threat. And not just this variant. This variant is the one who is exiled from all the other awful multiversal Kangs, right?
Yeah.
So you think he'd be the most powerful, or at least the most devious, the most cunning. There's a factor there. And I didn't feel it. I felt it with him, with his presence on screen, but the actions that they had for him at the very end, all that fell apart for me. And yeah, it's even worse with the whole new direction that they're going. Because I, once again, loved Kang in this. Loved him in this. I just hated that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And the grandma. Wasn't a big fan of her in this one.
Of who?
The not the grandma or the
Oh, yeah.
mom.
I was like, the grandma.
I'm dropping her name.
Pfeiffer.
Oh, Michelle
Michelle
Pfeiffer.
Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Janet. Van
Janet.
Janet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of her in this one either.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're not alone on that one, man. So yeah, I don't think a lot of people hear what you're saying on that one. Cam.
Yeah, this is actually tough. Because I think each of these films have their own place and significance in the MCU altogether. They kind of are like connecting movies for the most part. So my favorite one would probably be Ant-Man #1, right? That kind of introduced Janet Van Dyne as well as Hank Pym, and then also Darren Cross, right? Which I thought I was so upset when Hot Toys was like, we're not gonna make the that suit, right? And I'm like, dude, why? It looks so good, right? I mean, aesthetically, but I guess they figured, making a MODOK would be a lot better. So
the show precedence on that MODOK, though.
Talk about unique, though. Unique. I mean, you're not gonna have anything else like that in your collection.
No. We'll never see anything else like that again, probably at this point. Because I mean,
that's not a bad thing either, though, huh?
No, trust me. And then also just to honestly, just to kind of agree with what Austin said. Honestly, it was great to see Jonathan Majors' performance in this. It is very disheartening that he won't be a part of the MCU anymore going forward. But I do think the third film was kind of a little bit all over the place for the most part. There wasn't really they introduced way too many one-off characters that we will never see again, right? And even the people that were in the little tribe that were under in the micro world, you know what I'm saying, or in the quantum realm. We'll never see them again. So it was just we're telling all these extra stories for no reason, what was the guy they had to drink? I forgot his name. They were like, "Oh, you got to drink me to, to hear what I was saying." Right? Exactly. Nobody knows his name because he wasn't important enough. Nobody knows his name. Whole segment. We gotta drink the glue, and then we get to talk to him. Perfect. And then also, I mean, I agree 100% what Austin said about the fight scene where the Ant family beats up Kang.
Yeah.
Huh? How that happen? And there's no way Ant-Man, who used to be Employee of the Month at Baskin Robbins, is going toe to toe. Ain't no way. I'm like, nah, that's not gonna happen. But to round it out, I do love the second Ant-Man and the Wasp. It kind of showed the character development between Scott and Hope Van Dyne's relationship.
Yeah.
Even though, Scott is trying to preserve everything he has, which is essentially his relationship with his daughter, which I think a lot of people can kind of relate to, opposed to jumping into, a relationship to figure out what he wants for himself. And then another part that actually I really, really liked is that, they got to bring Janet back into this film, as well as introducing Bill Foster, who's Goliath, which we got to see a lot of during the What If series, I think, this season. And supposedly we're going to see more of it in season 3. So I'm excited. Hopefully when we see them dive into this whole 1960s Fantastic Four, we will get to see a younger version of Hank and maybe Bill Foster. So that's what my hopes are for that. I mean, it could be super cool cameos to check out though, but damn, not bad
at all. All right, Carlos, floor is yours.
This one's a little bit I agree with Cam. It's a little bit tough for me in that I can't speak a lot for these movies because they didn't stick well with me in terms of not that I didn't like them, but I just don't remember too much of them. I know that I tried watching Ant-Man 2 maybe 10 times until I finally finished it. And it wasn't that it was, I mean, I guess I don't know. I just couldn't. I don't even know if I did finish the movie. To be honest, I don't know what Ghost. I don't know even know what happened to Ghost. So this is just one that I can't speak about. It just didn't stick with me. The first one was good. I like Ant-Man as a character. Paul Rudd does a great job. He's really fun, and I love the figure itself and the potential that you could do with the collection just with Ant-Man and stuff. Quantumania, I saw the most recently, obviously, but I do agree with that end scene fight. Like, it didn't make sense to me. Also, like, they made a big deal about him closing the portal, and then they just came back and opened him and got him right away too. So like, that also didn't make too much sense for me. I was like, well, man, like they made a big deal about him locking himself in there, and then they just brought him back. So yeah, it just like for like like seeing how like Thanos like took down like everybody on the first battle, and then
Yeah.
this dude's appearance Cam spoke on it perfectly. Like it was a little bit disappointing to see that aspect of this Kang that Austin was talking about, right? Like the one that was casted away and stuff. So
Yeah.
it just this trilogy just doesn't stick with me, just because it's probably the one that I've like just put in the back of my head somewhere. And like I said, I
Yeah.
don't have a lot of negative things about it. I mean, I got nothing else to say about it just being like Paul Rudd was a great Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Also, for 1 and 2, shout out to Michael Pena. Pena?
Oh
Pena.
yeah.
Yes, Pena. I was gonna
Yeah.
say, yep. Yep.
Ooh. Okay,
Good call.
Luis, that was a great character.
Yeah.
That's
It
a
was.
fun comedy that fits really well with
Yeah.
this trilogy, or at least the first two.
Yeah, man. Every time he does his reenactments of the end and how they put his same voice for all the characters, like, oh, yeah, so this girl, her cousin at work that I know, was saying that
Oh,
that's all the, and then he's like, oh, for real, for real? He was like,
Look,
yeah, I saw it the other day. And it switches to
One,
the other
you
person.
nailed that. You nailed that. They should have done so much more with Michael Pena, like with marketing. He
I
could have done
know.
some
Yeah.
fun voiceovers, some trailers,
Yeah,
some
he could have.
spoofs. Like he could have done so much commentary just as that character because people ate it up. More so specifically me because I loved it and I want more of it.
Yeah, no, yeah, I was gonna say if you didn't hadn't brought it up, I was gonna bring it up. But yeah, that's one of the things I really enjoyed, his character and just how that whole like and it was kind of they did it with the first and second one. I can't remember if they did it with the third one. If
No.
Pena came back, okay, yeah, it was the first two. But I like that they continued that. But yeah, overall, I like the comedy aspect in each of these. This was meant to be a comedy, whereas like Ragnarok was just kind of big shift change from Dark World, and so the comedy just didn't really. I mean, there were some funny moments, but it didn't stick for me. But this, from the get go, was meant to be a comedy, and that's the way Edgar Wright, if you guys remember, Edgar Wright originally wrote the screenplay, and he had a vision for it to be an action adventure comedy. And so, speaking of Ant-Man, so one of the few I can't remember what the other one, but this is one of two MCU movies directed by the same director. So Peyton Reed directed all three of them. Ant-Man 2015, Ant-Man and the Wasp 2018, and then Quantumania 5 years later in 2023. So Edgar Wright wrote the screenplay for Ant-Man, and then obviously creative differences he left, but for the most part his original screenplay remained intact, and so that's why it was still somewhat funny, but it had that action adventure feel to it. And yeah, I really liked it for that. So the first one I think would have to be my favorite of the three. And I also love Paul Rudd as a comedic actor. He's one of my favorites. He's up there, just his humor, his kind of dry sense of humor. And I didn't touch on this in Civil War, but his one-liners, the does anyone have any orange slices, or when he comes out, he's like, hey, you're Captain America, right? You're great. It's just his whole attitude and his personality, how he approaches all the Avengers is cool. It's just funny. I like that how he brought that. Let me see. And Ant-Man and the Wasp, again, one of the storylines. The story wasn't really strong for this one, but I did like the whole theme about Lawrence Fishburne. His character is doing what he was doing for his daughter, right? That was Lawrence Fishburne, right? In there.
Yeah, it was Lawrence Fishburne.
Okay, yeah. So then you find out, the reasons what they're doing is because they're trying to save Ghost. I forgot the character's actual name in there, but to save her life because she has this sickness basically, and she keeps phasing out, and he's basically doing it to save her. And you don't, again, one of those things you don't find out till the end. So it's just kind of like, okay, you understand their motivations for it. It's like, oh man, okay, well, it doesn't seem as bad, but maybe the way they went about it could have been different. So it's just one of those thought-provoking situations about what you would do for your own kids or your own family member that you were looking out for. So that was cool. And just the whole fight scenes, that they did some clever things between the shrinking and the growing, and how Paul Rudd and eventually they were interacting between the two, right? And how they combined their abilities, both flying and both with Paul. It was just cool, man. Just those sequences on there, really awesome. And then I think you all nailed it with Quantumania. I don't really need to say anything else. My least favorite, I think, of all the MCU movies. I'm trying to think right now. Well, of the ones we talked about, I should say, not that and Love and Thunder. I don't know, man. I was just, but yeah, it just was a lot of hype on this one and wasn't really didn't meet, I think, a lot of our expectations, and so yeah, it's unfortunate, but I agree. Jonathan Majors was the strongest part of it. To touch on what you mentioned about the CGI, Austin. It's kind of hard because I accepted it just because of where they're at. It's kind of hard to do anything else but CGI in the quantum realm, right? Like, how can you envision that? You can probably take practical sets to a certain point, but after that, you're gonna need some CGI in there. So I was like, okay, you know what? It's understandable for where they're at to have like those fantastical elements in that environment. So I just kind of chalked it up to that personally. So like, all right,
that's fair.
Still, overall, it didn't save the movie. Yeah, so Ant-Man. Anyone else have any other thoughts on this one before we go on to the next one? The last trilogy.
Now that I think about it, the third one, it did give us kind of like a open ending though as well, like towards the end of the film, because it was like Scott trying to figure out like, did I really beat him? You know, because dealing with time and all this other stuff, he's probably trying to figure out like, I mean, the whole time at the end, he was trying to figure out like, did we beat him or did he just go back in time? Or did I actually lose? Because it's weird because when he's walking down in the street, everybody's like, oh, it's Ant-Man. Before, they thought he was Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? They're like, thank you, Spider-Man, the guy in the coffee shop. And then, you know, walking down the street, everybody, I mean, maybe while he was gone, they were reading his novel. I don't know. But, like, it kind of gave you an idea. Okay, Kang is probably still coming. And then,
to be fair,
no, he's not coming anymore.
We were all kind of like, did he really just beat Kang?
So Cam kind of nailed that, as he's walking. And so the ending of the movie is like a mirrored version of the very beginning, right? He's walking down the street. He's saying hi to people. People are saying hi to him. And then at the end, as this is going on, he starts having this internal monologue of, did we defeat him? He's like, he said more were coming. You know, so he starts having this, and then the end credit scene, which I thought was, I loved the end credit scene. We saw all the Kangs getting together. One of the really neat things too,
all the Kangs,
is like when I was watching this the first time. I don't know about you guys. I'm a Rick and Morty fan, so I was thinking of Rick. I was like, man, there's a lot here. Like there's a lot of crossover here. Right. Apparently, the writer also wrote for Rick and Morty as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember if it's the writer or the director.
Of Quantumania?
Yes. It was either the writer or the director. They wrote the Acid Vat episode in Rick and Morty.
I haven't seen that one yet, but it just
sounds
sounds
like,
funny.
There's a lot of crossover here with Rick and Morty.
That's funny.
Jeff Loveness was the who wrote the screenplay for Quantumania. I don't know if that rings a bell.
No.
Okay, gotcha. I'll see like occasional scenes of or episodes of Rick and Morty, but I haven't seen it all the way through. But yeah, the stuff I have seen is pretty funny.
MODOK babysitting or MODOK babysitting center, just like they had for Jerry. Then, if that's the case.
For Jerry?
they made Jerry, like all the Jerrys got to go to a babysitter, and it was just like a room full of Jerrys just being
Jerry.
So,
wait, what is that? What is that from? Jerry?
Rick and Morty.
Yeah, Jerry was
okay,
the dad. He was like the dad over Rick and Morty.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, see, that's how much I've seen.
Hey, MODOK being Avenger was hilarious.
He died as an Avenger.
His little scene at the end was like his hilarious, bro.
Look, I like. He's like, and I get to die as an Avenger, and then Ant-Man's like, yeah.
That was the highlight of the movie. MODOK was cheeky too when they picked him out of like the little thing. Shit was funny, dude.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's also one of those examples of not everything from like a 2D media, like a comic, or
Yes.
2D media like an animated show or a movie, the crossover into live action, it's not perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because man, that was rough for me. Him in the gold suit with the faceplate,
Yeah.
I thought that looked awesome. That CGI'd head, and granted, what else could they have done without changing
Doing
the
that?
character
Yeah.
so much? Yeah, that's tough. But
Yeah.
oof, man,
Yeah. Here, I'll keep the mask on. Put it back on.
that was
Please. Yeah.
that's rough, man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point, and something I was going to touch on before with Civil War. Again, with in the comics, Spider-Man was the integral part of that story, but obviously in the movie that didn't happen. And those are both good examples, like you pointed out, Austin, that as much as comic fans want to see that, they can't always translate directly for one reason or another to live action, right? Because with Civil War, going back to that was rights issues, right? Marvel was still trying to get the rights to Spider-Man, so they couldn't do it. For this one, it was just more of like MODOK, like you mentioned, like how do you actually bring that to live action? So as much as comic fans would like to see that, you kind of have to set some sort of like realistic expectations there. Like what can they actually do versus what's practical. There's a lot of other factors that go in. With a comic book, you can just it's a writer and an artist, the inker, they're all there and they have free reign of what's allowed within their company. But movies, there's so many other issues and things involved and factors. It's just hard to do that. So the fact that they can bring as close as possible at some points it's pretty incredible. Other times, obviously, they don't always nail it and then they fail. So it's just one of those things. But something that I think that some people should keep in mind is just there's a lot more that goes into these than we probably can think of. Let's see here. Going through some of these chats. Let's see. Seeing Geo got the conversation going. Let me see here. Ren's in the house. Ren Solenti, I just saw he popped in. I'm so late, but good evening, everyone. Good evening. Ren's, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you coming through. Let's see here. And then people back. Yep. Awesome. Yeah, I think I got. Sorry if I missed anyone. I didn't want to interrupt anyone's conversations there. But Ashford Academy saying I love Ant-Man. 3 was somewhat disappointing. Kang is overrated. Okay, that's fair. I think it seems like the consensus is the third one wasn't that great. It seems like, right? You got what you guys are getting.
Hey, I got a question for you guys, and this is kind of a little bit outside the movie and more into collecting.
Okay.
Kang Hot Toy.
Oh,
who's picking that up?
I am, said the Feezy. I still got mine on pre-order just because
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll use the actual like unmasked head. Just because in general I didn't know if I was gonna do that to begin with, but just because like the one with his screen on just looks so much better. I may just leave it like that. I like the colors; they just pop, the green and the purple.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, I'm getting it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cam, go.
Oh no, go ahead, bro.
I was gonna say I haven't. That's one of those that's still up in the air for me
Gotcha.
right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just decided to get it because at this point it's a one-off. So it's
that's true.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this will be the last time I see this version. I mean, going down the road, I mean, if it's reprised by someone else, then of course the head sculpt will be totally different. But if we get one of those Kangs that was actually in that Hall of Kangs or that Coliseum of Kangs, then like they could easily, like, if they do like one of the I don't know, like the mutant face versions of it, like in the stands, then that could be the Kang that they roll with, because they can cosmetics, they can do everything with that. So
Look, I'm just saying, if they do replace him with another actor, that actor better bring some chops, because Major crushed it.
Yeah, man.
At least with what he was given, right? Crushed.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I'm sure Marvel know the importance of that role. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm curious to see who's up. I know there's already rumors floating around of who's in talks to take that role, but we shall see.
I know.
Gentlemen, we're on to our last trilogy here. Here's where it could get interesting. Guardians of the Galaxy. Cam, I know you had some thoughts on that one, so we'll go ahead and start with you.
Okay, this is probably my favorite trilogy in the
You spoiled the
MCU.
surprise. There you go.
You're right.
It's all right. Go ahead. Go for it.
No,
Probably. He said probably.
Yeah.
it is. It is hands down. Hands down. The trilogy. Um, I think we get to see this banded group of, I guess you could say, rebels or outcasts, and they come together to become an ultimate family to figure out, the
Mhm.
troubles of the galaxy that they're able to solve together.
Yeah.
I think my favorite one, honestly, is the second film,
Okay.
Guardians Volume 2. I watch that with my daughters all the time. So for me, that's one that they endlessly love. They're not huge fans of the third one because like all the animal abuse, and they're like, I think my
Yeah, that
6-year-old
one's
was
rough.
like, I was like, you can't even watch this. We gotta 1 and 2 is all you know now. That's it. So
Yeah.
um yeah, I thought it was just such a cool story, and it was kind of like a father-son moment between, Ego and Peter, trying to figure out, where he's from, but really figuring out he really had a father figure in his
Yeah.
life the whole entire time with Yandu,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course the first one, it was the introduction of all the characters together. And then we got to see actually like the Nova Corps as well, which I thought was a cool little, like, I wouldn't say, I guess you could call it a cameo, because they didn't really have like a main Nova character. I mean, Nova
Yeah.
Prime was in there, who was Glenn Close, but she wasn't like Nova. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah,
character
yeah.
we knew as like the super powered character.
A little
Yeah.
nod.
So I was like, but it had so many great fight scenes, and the soundtrack in all these films, man.
Oh man.
Oh
Fire.
man, they
Yeah.
can't go
Highlight.
wrong with the soundtracks. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And of course, the third one rounded it out with all these characters. You see, how they developed and what they've been through. Peter is obviously a wreck, and Groot has been in the weight room, man, getting it.
Yeah.
Of course, we got like several other characters that are introduced that formulate the team, and I think it was probably one of the best endings you could give these characters without killing off everyone. Kind of just having everybody just go their separate ways and try to find a new path without each other, opposed to as this band. But
Yeah.
get to see a new Guardians, and
Yeah.
who knows where it's going to go from here. I'm hoping we get to see more of Peter's life in Missouri. So
Yeah.
great film.
So, you mentioned the soundtrack, which I agree, man. Just the soundtrack in all three of these movies is just awesome. So, when I was looking up some trivia, one thing, I mean, it made sense. I was still kind of surprised. I didn't know it did this well, but the album soundtrack, Awesome Mix Volume 1, so from the first Guardians movie, was the first soundtrack to reach #1 on the US Billboard chart without any original music. So it was the soundtrack that was taken from already existing movies,
Yeah.
reached #1 on the Billboard charts. Just it was just like, wow. I mean, but yeah, it makes sense. It's a great soundtrack. It's just awesome. You hit
I went ahead and bought both on vinyl, so like that's how good it was. Like,
nice.
Oh.
yeah, I mean, like you said, they're all old school songs, but like I think it reintroduced a lot of old school songs to a newer generation as well. Like,
For sure. Yep.
I'm Not in Love, 10cc. Where was I at? I guess I was under a
Yeah.
rock. But great stuff they got in there.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. And you're right. Yeah, definitely exposed a lot. It brought up the popularity game, made it popular again. These songs that were popular in their time are now, bringing it back to a new generation
Yeah.
and
Okay.
playing it. Carlos, you got the floor, baby.
All right. So I enjoyed Guardians, but I am not attached to the characters as I feel like Cam is in terms of like being their favorites. They were really fun movies. This was definitely a game changer when it came out. I think it was very fresh when
Yeah.
it came to the scene. I think nothing really had been done like this. And I think even like David Ayer's Suicide Squad was built kind of to compete with this after Marvel went with this. So this was like really cool that Marvel brought this out. And it was, I think my favorite Guardian would be Rocket. Sometimes I forget that that's Bradley Cooper too. Like it's crazy, but that
Yeah, I know, right?
you don't actually ever see him. So yeah, man, I think objectively speaking, I would say that this was possibly like the best trilogy, not my favorite trilogy, but I think when we talk about like reception and emotion and just direction, I think they hit it really well with Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think going back to what Cam was talking about, Groot being in the weight room, Austin was like the base mocap design for that Groot, you know.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, man. But I definitely like the characters had their fun moments, and it was really cool. I like different variations of Groot was really cool as well.
Yeah.
So and they did really well having that many characters on at all times. Like it's not easy to do that in a movie, and to
Yep.
be able to share stories and build upon those characters and maintain like the audience with those. Like I think they did a really great job with those movies. But yeah, man, just like I said, like objectively, I think this is probably one of the MCU's best ones. But personally for me, not my favorite. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. No
Yeah.
worries. So this was the other one. I don't know why it was like here on the sheet, so I don't know why I forgot. But Peyton Reed directed all three Ant-Mans. Here, James Gunn directed all three of the Guardian movies. So Volume 1, 2014, Volume 2, 2017, and Volume 3, 2023. And then for the most part, also written by James Gunn, except for Volume 1, it was James Gunn and Nicole Perlman on that one. But
Mhm.
yeah, for the most part, this was all James Gunn. Austin.
Yeah, so I pretty much agree with a lot of your guys' points on this. Soundtrack's probably gonna be the biggest one, right? I think that's some people's biggest takeaways from
Yeah.
these. I mean, with the first movie, we get the opening scene with Peter Quill dancing to "Come and Get Your Love."
Yep. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, and that sets the tone for the entire trilogy. This is one of those
Yeah.
neat ones where the comedy in this works perfectly for me, and it's the same tone across. Granted, in the third one, we get quite a bit more emotional depth with
Yeah.
some sadness,
Yeah.
which I'll touch on that. But my favorite thing about this is probably James Gunn. And what I mean by that is how he's able to take a ragtag group of individuals and create a beloved franchise out of it. Like
Yep.
I'm a comic book fan. I know I stated earlier that I haven't read a whole lot of comics because I haven't, but I am a fan.
Yeah.
But man, Guardians of the Galaxy, these are like C or D tier list characters. These weren't some mainstream thing like they are now. And the fact how
Yeah.
prior, I would say 99% of people had no idea who any of these people were, but after the first one, people just fell in love,
Yep.
right? And I think that's the magic of James Gunn. How he's able to have such a large amount of people on the screen, and yet the pacing feel good. You get to know each of these individuals. You get to care for all these individuals. Everybody on this team, we fall in love with. I think this is a really consistent franchise. Third one, I love it. I don't know if it's my favorite one. I don't know if this makes sense to you guys. Like on paper, I think I would put the third one above the first two, which I did actually on my ratings. But I think the first one is my favorite.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's quite a bit easier to rewatch.
Yeah.
Rewatchability is pretty high on it. Third one, if you want to feel some feels, definitely watch it. Third one though, Action Figure Academy kind of nailed it. Adam Warlock to me, that was a small miss
Yeah.
in this one. But man, we got some great things in the third one. Cam touched on the animal abuse, which I know some people talked about, and that's fair because that's exactly what we see,
Yeah.
But this is one of those things I want from Marvel, man. I want to relish in the emotion, right? I don't want to laugh at screaming goats 20
Yeah.
times in a movie. I don't need that, right? What I want are these characters to have their arcs pushed, and I want to feel what they're going through, right? We got to live that with Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, which I think that's why he's probably the most well done character in the MCU for me. But we get this, and we get so many nods to this, like in the third one, like Gamora the entire time was like, "I know you're Groot. You said this 200 times."
Yeah.
Are you guys just messing with me? Like,
Yeah.
you can't understand him then. Then at the very end, he says, "I am Groot," and she responds. It
Yeah.
doesn't say anything else,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That's huge. And then
Yeah.
later on, we as the audience, we hear Groot. I forget the actual line that he stated, but Groot
I
says
love you
something,
guys.
and yeah, we as the audience, we hear the "I love you guys," right?
Yeah.
And we just lived through what Gamora did,
Yep. Yeah.
which
I
I think
love
is
that.
beautiful. I think it's fantastic.
Mhm.
With Nebula and Drax, you know, you get Nebula saying to Drax, you know, I don't think you're meant to be a destroyer. I think you're meant to be a father.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
man, like we know what his character has gone through.
Mhm.
We know what some of the emotions he's pushed down, and that's a deep hitting line, man.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rocket. I mean, that entire movie is Rocket's movie.
Yeah.
So, man, I love this franchise. I love this franchise a lot.
Who's everybody's favorite Guardian?
Oh man, I didn't even think about that one.
I'm probably gonna go Peter. I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
probably the
I'm
easy
Rocket.
answer. For
I'm
me right now.
Rocket.
Okay.
Oh, dude, honestly,
I would have to
probably
say
right
Rocket
there, man.
and
Rocket.
like that ending scene where he's like, "I'm Rocket Raccoon." He finally accepts that he's a
Yeah.
raccoon. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? All this whole time, he's like,
Yeah.
and I'm not a thing. I didn't ask to be made and put apart.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm a raccoon." Damn.
Guys, so I just rewatched this last week, and this was Rachel's first time watching it.
Mm.
And like we saw Guardians 1 and 2 a couple weeks prior, but I was telling Rachel, like, going into this movie, I was like, hey, look, remember some things, because she's not she's not like a movie buff. You know, she watched, like,
Yeah.
before me, she'd watch a movie, never rewatch it again. That just wasn't really a thing for her. She didn't quite understand it. So like going into this movie, I was like, hey, look, don't forget some of these important things. Rocket very much states all the time he's not a raccoon. We don't get a whole lot of story, but watch the movie. In the first one, he has this entire drunken spiel of how everyone's making fun of him and how he's a horrible creature. Like, and he kind of touches on some like PTSD. So I'm like, remember that when going into this movie.
Yeah. No, man. Where to start? So this was kind of narrowed down for me. This is like up there with my top trilogy. Again, agree with a lot of what you guys said. I guess I'll just start here with the first one. I'll just throw out right off the bat. The first one is my favorite. I know a lot of people. You mentioned this, Austin. A lot of people do the "Come and Get Your Love" scene. You know, right from the beginning, it sets a tone. But it seems like people forgot like that. You know, that was a sequence after what happened on. That wasn't the actual opening of the movie, right? I mean, that was like where they show the title screen. But before that, it opens with Peter in the hospital with his mom, and that already, like right off the get go, was a powerful scene.
Yep.
And you know, it goes from that, and I kind of started cheering up on that one. I was just like, oh man, because it was just like really saddening. You know, he leaves, and obviously he gets kidnapped, or they get taken, and then they go to that the dancing scene, right, where he's already older. But those two back to back already, I think those two together set the tone for this franchise and what James Gunn did overall, what his skill in balancing both comedy and drama, right, dramedies.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why this was up there for me. Like, I had to narrow this down, and this was tough because James Gunn just did a good job across the board, balancing both comedy and the drama, the powerful moments. You know, you all already touched on Guardians 3, and those were the extremes on both end. The hard-hitting emotional moments, you know, tears coming, the waterworks building on that one. But on the downside, you know, I agree. I didn't really like Adam Warlock. I thought they could have did him better. It didn't do him justice. I was expecting more like a badass, intimidating role. What they, you know, like the teaser we got at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, that's what I thought they were trying to build up to. So I personally am with the group that, you know, thought Adam Warlock could have been better. And I say James Gunn did a good job because there's some moments where the comedy didn't hit as well for me. Specifically in volume 2, I thought some of the humor there was a little more. I always tell my buddies that it's kind of seems like it's more like Disney type of humor, like for the kids. That whole like taser face thing, for example, and
Yeah.
the back and forth between Mantis and Drax, just like the type of humor. I think Drax was saying like, "You're just ugly," or he was saying something to those effects, and it was like,
Yeah.
they were trying to push the humor, or James Gunn was trying to. So I didn't agree with that, but those are minor compared to everything else. Like overall, I still think he still did a good job balancing both the comedy and the drama, the really emotional parts for it. And so, yeah, this is up there for me. This whole trilogy. Let me see here. First one is one I can just throw on anytime. You guys mentioned on the one of the past movies, I can just throw up anytime and just watch it, have it playing in the background. And I was actually doing that when I was putting these slides together and making these notes. I just had this up and I was just having watching in the background, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Let me see what else I did say. Of course, I think a lot of people, the consensus is on the weakest part of the first one is the villain, Ronan, right? It wasn't as didn't have a lot of depth to him, so I was like, okay, yeah. So that one I kind of overlooked. I was like, okay, he's just there. He's just something for the Guardians to come through and defeat. But yeah, not a lot to him. I didn't like in the third one, the whole when he dropped the F-bomb. I thought that was kind of forced. I know that was a big deal. People were like, oh man. And so I don't know. I thought it was unnecessary. What did you guys think about that when Peter dropped that F-bomb?
It's funny because after he did, I immediately turned to Rachel and was like, hey, this is MCU's first time to have that word on here. I was actually fine with it in theater, and upon my second watch, it didn't take me out of it. Granted, both times I paused and I did like acknowledge in my head. I'm like, oh, they said it. Whereas I think in any other movie, I would never even think it. It would just be a line of dialogue that would just come and go. I was fine with it. I actually felt like it was organic as much as it could be. Yeah. He also said, didn't he also say ass like right before that too? It was pretty consecutively. He said ass and then the F word.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Back to back.
I remember.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, it just like it just felt forced to me. It felt like it felt out of place for him to say that. So I don't know. Do
you think it was intentional shock value?
I think it was. Yeah. I mean, because I don't know. It was just felt. What do you like, Cam or Carlos? What do you think about that?
Well, I feel like I think they were trying to. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're trying to introduce more of an adult side to the MCU because the movies are definitely about to get a lot darker. I mean, July 26th with Deadpool 3, it's about to be a lot more F-bombs. So
maybe
more than one. So
I
think they're trying to do a warm up, maybe.
Yeah.
That and like the fact that maybe some of that younger audience that they got from 1 and 2, like were transitioning to 3, and like they were trying to cater to those people as well. So that could be a part of it as well. That
maybe this was
his
that route. Maybe this was his send off too, and maybe he had a bit more pull.
Oh, you're right.
Dialogue or story. This is his last movie with Marvel.
Oh yeah, Chris Pratt.
No, James
Gunn.
Oh, James. Oh, right. Yeah.
So maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. In regards to the ending, the way the Guardians 3 ended, I think for the most part, again, that was, some of the waterworks came in there. The most impactful moment for me was, when Peter acknowledged Rocket as captain after all he's been through. He just said captain and everyone just turned to him and just did this. And I was like, oh man, that just got me. That, and then like you said, Austin, the whole, we grew with these characters from, the first time they were introduced in Guardians. When in side note, I'm one of the people who didn't know, I had no idea who they were, and so James Gunn just changed that for me as well. It's like, oh man, I just fell in love with these characters. But so this whole build up, and then when we finally us as the audience are able to understand Groot also, I just thought it's so simple, but it's so powerful and clever to involve the audience in that way. It was just genius. Yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, and just you feel that, right? You just feel that connection, that involvement with the Guardians. It's just it's crazy. It was like simple, but it was so effective. Go ahead.
I loved it because once again, I just watched this with Rachel and she didn't catch it. There's some things like an average moviegoer probably won't catch. And like after I paused it, I was like, look, I was like, I don't know if you just caught this. I'm not the one like pausing the movie 50 times during it, but
Yeah.
this was at the end, and it was such a big scene. I was like, look, I don't know if you caught this, but this is what it's meaning. And then I was so excited to explain it to her. I
Yeah.
think it was
And
just so well done.
yeah. How did she feel after did she click? Like, what was the reaction when you told her that?
Well,
Oh.
she she she
Didn't like
liked
it?
it.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, she's not this super outgoing like, oh my gosh, how amazing is that? She was just
Oh,
like,
I see.
oh
She's
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah, it's true, huh? Okay, what's for dinner? You're like one of those
yeah,
things.
All right,
yeah,
what's
yeah,
dinner?
Yeah. Gotcha. Let's see, a couple of things I also wanted to touch on here. A couple of trivia that was really cool. Again, going on really impactful moments. It's interesting how when I was reading more up on these movies, there's a lot of actors and actresses that took on these roles because they either wanted to impress their kids or their grandkids. I know, I think it was Kate Blanchett was there. Michael Douglas was another one who took on these roles just to, because they wanted to. Robert Redford, I think, was another one for his grandchildren.
Okay, round of applause for actors and actresses who do that. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
passion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say the one that I thought was really sentimental was Bautista's when he found out he got the role of Drax.
Oh, yeah.
I read that he actually broke down in tears with joy just because he was so happy. And I was like, oh, okay. So I don't know if any others did, and they just didn't. I just didn't read about it, but that one was just really that was really cool to hear that he did that. You can tell it seemed like that was really impactful to him.
Mint.
Also, he's another collector like us, not in the exact
okay.
same realm, but he collects lunchboxes.
Oh,
Ooh.
does he?
Yeah, he's a heavy
Oh,
lunchbox collector.
I didn't know
yeah.
that.
Yep.
I gotta look at his. Does he? I'm sure. Did he post his collection on Instagram or anything like social media or anywhere?
I mean, I'm sure it's somewhere, but he's done interviews and like WWE years ago did a small little promo like on a website or something for him
Yeah.
about that.
Okay. Maybe I gotta check out pictures or something. See if that's on there. Let's see here. Oh, I thought this was really cool. So in regards to Volume 2 with Ego, so Gunn wanted to use Ego, right? That was part of the plot. So he approached the execs at Marvel, and Marvel told him, like, hey, you can't use him because we don't have the rights to him, right? Because Egos belonged to Fox. Fox owned the rights due to his ties to Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer. And so Gunn basically just went over there, went to Fox, and just asked him, like, hey, can I use Ego? And they let him have it. They let Marvel have the rights to Ego in return for more creative freedom with Negasonic Change Warhead and Deadpool. So that was the deal. So if Fox gave Marvel Ego, then they would then they wanted more control over Negasonic's
Hell yes,
powers.
what a
in
deal.
Deadpool. I know,
Yeah.
right?
It fit both properties so well.
Yeah, it's interesting how you just Gunn was like, all right, well, shit, I'll just go over there and ask him then if I can have it. Yeah. Hey, can I have Ego? Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, it was just crazy. But yeah. All right, gentlemen, it's that time to go through. I think people already know, but we're going to go through and decide. Let the audience know here what our favorite trilogy is. We talked about it. Good conversations, good discussions. We'll go ahead and start with Carlos there, since you're on top left there now.
So
Favorite MCU trilogy.
I mean, just comes down to being biased, but Captain America, baby, Captain America, like all the way. Like,
yep. Any other insights or anything you want to reiterate on why?
I think we all agree on how fun those movies are. I think the villains are great. I think the implications that some of those movies carry on towards the rest of the MCU are felt throughout. And I think we do get a lot of emotion throughout those movies oftentimes. So I think that's what makes them great for me. And I think we just overall had some of the most consistent growth in terms of sequel and like trilogy getting better as it went and not getting worse or felt like maybe this one was slightly, personally, that's where I'm at. We're ranking the Captain America as my favorite trilogy from the ones that we discussed tonight.
All right. Austin. Let the
Yeah,
people know.
Yeah, so I'm going Captain America, like Carlos just did. Same sentiments there. Winter Soldier and Civil War, those are just my kind of tone of movies.
Hmm.
I really like the more grounded, action-packed. Honestly, anything the Russo brothers do or does
Yep.
is I'm a fan.
That's the formula.
Yeah, I'm
That's the
sold.
formula.
Granted, I will say this:
Say it.
Guardians of the Galaxy, close second because it's so consistent. Like there's a big disparity between the first Avenger and then Winter Soldier and then Civil War for me. At least in ratings of the movies, there's a big
Okay.
disparity between those three.
Yeah.
Versus like Guardians of the Galaxy, there's really not that big of a disparity between them for me. That they're all fairly on par.
Yeah.
But yeah, Captain America for me.
All right.
Taking
So
the
we got
dub,
two.
Captain America. Yeah.
We got 2 for Cap. All right, Cam. Where are you
I'm
sitting?
the oddball here. So mine would have to be Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy so far has been, for me, the only trilogy that has told you the beginning and also shown you the end of the same characters in the same group. Like Austin alluded to before, as well as you, as well, Jay, you said that these characters were D tier characters that have been turned into like some family favorites that some kids only know. These ones right here, like Peter Quill, or either Groot. Everybody knows Groot. Groot is as famous as what we used to call Baby Yoda, right? We used to be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Baby Yoda," before we
Yeah.
found out his name was
Yep.
Grogu. We were like, "Oh, Baby Yoda, Baby Yoda."
Yeah.
Everybody gets Baby Yoda. That's how famous Groot is at this point. So I feel like all of the levels of threats that they have faced have been like top tier Universal type, galaxy threatening things, from Ronin to Ego trying to take over Earth and all these other planets, as well as High Evolutionary just being a menace throughout the whole entire galaxy.
Yeah.
So for me, definitely it takes the top tier for me though.
That's dope.
Hey Cam, so it's funny. I don't know if you guys saw that 2000s. I forget which Spider-Man show, Agents of Spider-Man and Agents of Shield. Wait, no, what is it called? It's the animated Spider-Man show. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know
Where-
you're talking about. It was on like I think it was like Disney XD. I think it was that.
Yeah, it was like Spider-Man training with some other heroes to be Shield agents.
Yeah,
But Guardians of the Galaxy, and because Nova is a big part of that.
yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy made an appearance for one movie, and that's for one episode. That's the only reason why I knew who they were.
Yeah, so I think what's it called premiered in that show too. I think it was the girl. I think she was like White Tiger.
White Tiger. Oh, she was awesome.
And we're actually going to be seeing the male version of White Tiger in Daredevil Born Again.
Dope.
Yeah, so it all kind of coming into fruition.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's wild.
Wait, I can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
So I don't know which one's Rachel's favorite. I probably should ask her. I think it would be Captain America. I know what her least favorite is.
Oh, Thor.
It is Thor.
Hey, I got it. What do I
That was a quick one. Yeah,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
she did not make any kind of connections with any of those films. Yeah,
She didn't want any part of it. Yeah. She's like, I'm good.
no, she thought Thor was not. He didn't give main character energy. For her words.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that leaves it to me then. And I think if you haven't picked it up by now, you already know. Dun, dun,
Let's
dun,
go.
Team Cap. But yeah, man, I think I already said a lot earlier about this and why we spent a lot of time on that. But like I mentioned, it was really close. I was talking to Cam, behind the scenes on this. It's just like it was tough to choose between Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America. I think for, like you were saying, Austin, because I liked them both for different reasons, but I was trying to. I went to go be more critical so I could, just for the sake of choosing one. And it's interesting that you were saying that Guardians was the consistent one, because I actually felt for me that was more of the inconsistent one, and Captain America was more consistent. For the reasons I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Guardians, how like some of the humor didn't hit on volume 2 and again volume 3 for Warlock and just other things. But the really impactful moments hit hard on that one. So I think because of that Captain America edged out for me as the best trilogy. And yeah, it's just, again, the Russo brothers and the same writers. Was it Marcus and McFreely? Just that combination and just those big moments, those scenes. And yeah, it was really tough, though. It was really tough. Yeah, I love both those trilogies, but if I had to pick one, I think yeah, Captain America.
Okay, so quick question for all you guys then.
Yeah.
So out of both, let's just boil it down to like Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America.
Okay.
Between all those movies, what would be the go-to? Like right after this, you had a couple hours to kill.
Civil War.
And you had to just throw a flick on from one of those franchises. Which one do you choose?
Civil War.
I would honestly, I would have to say Guardians, and if I had to choose one, it would be the first Guardians to throw it on.
Yeah, probably be number 2 for me, Guardians. Most likely.
Kim, how do you feel about Guardians 2? That's kind of like Guardians 1 for me.
Is it?
I think because that would be. I'm kind of wanting to watch Civil War, not only because we've talked about it so much,
Right.
I think without that influence, like Winter Soldier is so amazing to me. But that's also one of those movies. I feel like it takes a bit more effort to watch it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas like Guardians of the Galaxy, even if I don't pay 100% attention, I'm giving like 60% and checking my phone or doing other things. I'm okay with that. But like Winter Soldier, it requires more of me. Maybe because I'm wanting to watch it all so much. But Guardians of the Galaxy, super easy watch.
Yeah,
always.
I still feel like I'm picking up new things when I watch Winter Soldier. You know, it's like if you're paying attention 100%, you're like, was that there last time? I remember.
Yeah.
That's
Harry
the
Potter.
beauty of rewatching.
Like, wait, I don't remember him doing that. Like, why did that Sorcerer's Stone burn his face? I don't understand what's going on right now.
Well, yeah, real quick, let me adjust the chat here. Yomo's in the house. He came in better late than ever, baby. What is up, Yomo? Let's see here. Let's see, everyone's saying when it's up to Yomo. Everybody sing. Action Figure Academy. Renz, I couldn't imagine myself crying about Drax dancing, but it happened. Yeah, that was another good impactful moment because Drax, that wasn't his thing, right? He wasn't really big on dancing.
We haven't seen him in dad mode before, prior to this, you know? It was such a beautiful thing. Yeah, I love that too, Renz.
Yeah. Again, a lot of good moments. Oh, one thing I didn't bring up that was, every time they said it had me busting up laughing in Volume 3, whenever they got a chance, they asked, did that look cool? Especially when Peter Quill, he came back, his face was all like, expanded and swollen. He's like, did that look cool? Oh man, it was so funny. They were all trying to one up each other. It just like I couldn't help it, man. It was so funny.
Chemistry, that's what it is. It's that chemistry. You feel it with them, you know?
Yeah. Again, that humor mixed in with those moments, because you think, they save him and you think, oh man, what's gonna happen? And then the first thing that he says was that line. It's just funny. Oh man. Cap, Action Figure Academy goes Cap. Blue goes Cap. S-Beam gotta go Guardians. Okay, nice. See, Action Figure Academy's Guardians is cute. Captain America is real. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Oh, that's cute. Yeah. Let's see here. Philip the Fool is like, what's up, guys? Gonna have to catch the replay. No worries, man. I love the Guardians trilogy, but I'd have to give it to Cap. Another one for Cap for the best trilogy. Yeah. So far, seems like consensus is Cap. Between Cap and Guardians, right? It's kind of going back and forth there. Guardians 2, as being saying, Guardians 2 is my number 1 MCU movie all time. Winter Soldier is my number 2. Yeah, it's tough, man. Yeah, for me, it's up. I mean, again, Captain America, 2 of the 3 movies are in my, I would probably say my top 5. Winter Soldier and Civil War are so that alone right there is just, for me personally, it's like, man. And then Guardians would have to be up there also in the top 5, the first Guardians. So, yeah. Well, gentlemen, we went through all the trilogies, have good discussions. What's that you say? Is that an encore? Well, we can't leave yet, right? We still got another set of movies to talk about. We ain't done yet, baby. That's right. We're gonna vote, or we're each gonna say our favorite Avengers movie. Hey, there we go. We weren't gonna leave until we did that. So we got 4 Avengers movie. We're not going to go in depth with them. We're just gonna, I think, for this, if you want, you guys want to give your takes on some of the other ones, but if you want, you can just do your favorite Avengers movie and your thoughts why. And then if you want to add some other things about the other ones, go for it. So let's see. We'll go ahead and start with Cam this time. Go for it.
We're going our favorite or in order, you said?
No, you start with your favorite and just explain a little bit of why, and then if you want to touch on any of the other ones, go for it.
Favorite Endgame, 100%, right? It's the full circle. I feel like we see everything that was going on in the past 12 years finally coming to fruition, and you see my man Tony Stark take that final snap. So it's I thought it was a my second is the first Avengers, right? You finally see this huge, massive team up, to defeat this unworldly type power, and all these people coming together who have, different set of skills, but just to achieve one goal, which I thought was dope. My third, at least favorite, is probably Infinity War, right? So Infinity War was good. I thought it was a great film. Had some great points, great action scenes, but they may have had my man Peter Quill looking like a goofball, right? In the whole film. I was like, he's unhinged. He's losing his mind. If you just would have not hit Thanos in the head, we would have been fine. None of the Endgame would have never happened, right? I was like, okay, just keep your hands to yourself, bro. And you've been good, but he couldn't help it. And then Age of Ultron, I thought was a great film, but my only problem with it is that Quicksilver, man, what? He's that fast, but then he just gets shot up by bullets.
What? You didn't see that coming?
Yeah, exactly.
That was good.
I'm like, oh my god, which obviously is the beginning to send Wanda down a spiral, down an evil path, is what we know now. So those are my top 4.
All right, and I just remembered. Now I see why you asked that, because I did ask you guys to start from your least favorite and work your way up, and so my bad, I completely messed it up. But Austin, you're up. Yeah, so this time we'll start with your number 4 ranked, and then you'll work your way up to your number 1.
Man, I'm so happy because I've said this already. I'm a really indecisive individual. It's hard for me to kind of put all my thoughts and orders with rankings, but I'm so happy because me and Rach, we've gone through this, and I have my notes right here.
Already prepared. All right.
So
let's do it.
Even though this is last, I still really enjoy this movie. Avengers Age of Ultron, taking number 4.
Okay.
I'll actually tell you the rating. I give an 8 flat.
Okay.
The first Avengers is going to be my number 3. I give that an 8.9. I really like that film. Really well done. First time seeing all of them together, and they executed it well. Yeah. Okay, so 1 and 2 is going to be between Infinity War and Endgame.
Oh, man. Here we go.
So up until this particular rewatch, I was Team Infinity War, being better than Endgame. But I don't know if it's just because we just binged all of them leading up to Endgame. It hit. Because
you ruined it.
Because before, I had never really binged all of it consecutively leading up to Endgame. Watched them all as they had their theatrical releases, and watched them then, rewatched some of them as one-offs here and there, but never had like a massive binge. But Endgame's going to take my number 1 spot. I rated Infinity War a 9.6 and Endgame 9.7. I absolutely think they're masterpieces. They're so good. Infinity War, even though it's my number 2, I like the fact that they actually allowed Thanos to win. It ended on such a dark note, which I never would have guessed. And it created so much hype and momentum and rumors and discussion amongst friends leading the Endgame. And then Endgame was amazing. I don't give 10s out too often, but they're teetering on those high 9s,
Yeah.
So yeah, Age of Ultron, first Avengers, Infinity War, and then Endgame being my number 1.
All right. Dope. Carlos.
So I'm glad that Austin switched up his answer, because I didn't want to agree with him on everything. But I'm also going to agree with him on Infinity War and Endgame were um like the top like battles for one, right? And I'll get there eventually, but I'm bringing this up because at 4 I'm gonna put Age of Ultron. Ultron just didn't like he didn't hit for me. Like he
Mhm.
just he didn't bring the. I think he could have been more menacing. I think he could have been more intense. I think he could have been more like if somebody was gonna die in that movie, it should have been by Ultron.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna spice it up here.
Oh man, here we go.
I'm gonna spice it up here. I'm gonna put
Bring it.
Endgame at 3.
Oh,
And let me
spicy.
explain. I'm gonna explain it. So Endgame felt like they just wanted to hit everything that they had teased before, and it kind of felt like fan service,
Yeah.
right? Which was great. I mean, it was an awesome movie, but I want to put it at 3 because I'm at 2. I'm gonna put Avengers 1 just because it's the beginning of the gang getting together. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like it's fun fact. I actually fell asleep at the beginning of that movie. So,
Is that fun?
so so this was at the time when I had no idea what was going on with the MCU.
Yeah.
I was in high school. My friends were like, "Hey, dude, do you want to go to this midnight premiere?" And I just wanted to go hang out with my friends. I had no idea what Avengers was. Like, I had no clue, right? And I was there, and it was like midnight, like one of those real midnight premieres. And I just remember I fell asleep at the beginning. I was exhausted, and I woke
Yeah.
up to like Loki had arrived. I had no idea who Loki was, and so when I woke up and I was like, "Oh shit, okay, cool." Like that's when I fell in love with that universe. That's when I went back and I saw Iron Man 1, I saw Thor,
Mhm.
like I saw Captain America. I had no idea who these characters were, and like Avengers 1 was the one that really brought me into the MCU. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm gonna put it at 2. And at
Okay.
1, Infinity War, I feel like overall that was the best cinematic movie out of all of them. I like the tone, the pacing, the characters like Nomad Captain America, Thor's entrance was like ridiculous, right? Like that was his like comeback in since, he had lost at the beginning. Iron Man's fight with Thanos was so awesome on Titan.
Yeah.
Um, even though it was like minor, like the Iron Spider suit was really cool, like when he first came out with that suit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Infinity War at 1, man. Like I really think that was
Oh.
the most cinematic masterpiece out of the two movies. So yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting
Hmm.
ranking on that one. Didn't see that one
Yeah.
coming.
Curveball, man.
Um,
Curveball.
yeah.
I was kind of
So let's go.
expecting that because I knew you're a huge fan of the first Avengers.
Yeah. Now I want to Hulk.
Yeah. um, man. So I had the same situation as Austin with my top 2, but I just like both of you, and I can't remember where you put Age of Ultron. Was that what your number?
That was my
Your
number
number 1?
4.
That was
Yeah.
my
Number
number
4.
4.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So it sounds like we're on agreements on that one. Yeah, I agree. Age of Ultron, I think, was the weakest of all of them. Had its good moments. That you know, Mad Hulk and Hulkbuster fight scene was awesome. Just some of those things right there was just so sick. But yeah, I think it just could have been better. Oh, by the way, I'm sure you know this, but to as a reminder, so the first 2 movies, Avengers 1 and 2, directed by Joss Whedon. He also did the
Mhm.
screenplay for both. 2012 for the first Adventures. Age of Ultron was 2015, and then the last 2 were, of course, the Russo brothers. And again, which made it tough, which is why I really liked them. Infinity War and Endgame were written by the same. Wrote the screenplay was written by the same people who did all 3 Captain Americas and Dark World. So Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. So that's like the team right there. Russo brothers, Marcus and McFeely. So Age of Ultron number 4, number 3. Above that would be the first Avengers. I agree with you, Carlos. That the impact on that one, just that first Avengers, that whole build up to this first Avengers team, right? We were just thinking we got Iron Man and Thor, but once they started teasing that a hint of what comic book fans were waiting for, right? This whole build up to an actual Avengers team that was done well, a superhero movie that was done well as a group, was just awesome. I just I remember that day going to see that in theaters, and just being wowed. I was just like, wow, they did it. But then came the sequels, right? These other ones, and it just took over. So, one Infinity War and Endgame. Um, Infinity or Endgame, I'm gonna put at number 2, and Infinity War is my number 1, and I'll give my reasons why here. So, long story short, Infinity War is just a masterpiece. I think from firing on all cylinders. I can't really find anything I didn't like about it. And so, Austin, you're saying you don't really, you hardly give movies 10s. I personally would give this a 10 because everything that I want to see in a great film was here. Again, a great balance of comedy, drama, really powerful scenes. The fact that they just go against audience expectations. Or you mentioned how Thanos wins in the end. A lot of people weren't expecting it, and then people walked out. Actually, my dad was one of them. He was out. He's like, "What? That's it?" He was all pissed because Thanos ended up winning, and he's not used to seeing that. It was funny, but I was like, "Yeah, that's just. I mean, that was just sometimes
That's
that
subverting
happens."
expectations in the
Exactly.
perfect way.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Let me see. Powerful moment. Tom Holland, disappearing, just that whole scene, that gut wrenching scene where he's like, he doesn't want to die. He just disappears right in front of Tony. It's just like, man,
I don't want to
just
go.
It's just dark. I don't
Yeah.
feel good.
I don't feel good. Yeah, I don't want to go. That's what it was. Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Suck
It
it
was
up.
just,
Yeah.
it was those, and just them slowly, like some of the Avengers of the team just start to like vaporize and like, just flake away, and everyone just witnessing it, and just, it was just crazy. Everyone in the audience was reacting like, what? They actually lost. Everyone was just, it was just, I can't think of anything I don't like about that movie. It was just set the
I,
bar high. Go ahead, Carlos.
I can tell you one thing that I did not like about Infinity War
Go.
that didn't get better in Endgame. Hulk. We didn't see Hulk ever again, and the Hulk that we did get in Endgame was just, for me, just wasn't it, man. Like that's not Hulk to me. Thor 2, like Thor in Infinity War was peak Hulk, and then
Mhm.
I didn't really like Endgame Thor. Like, so that's also why I think I put down Endgame
I
myself,
see.
because like we went from peak Thor to like mid Thor, I guess,
Carlos,
and Hulk out, bro. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like the dude dabs, like.
So
I don't
Hulk needed blue too,
know.
bro.
I think I told you this, but So Rach and I were going through all the movies and whatnot. She's not only like ranking these with me, but she's
Yeah.
also making a list of hot toys that she wants to see in the collection.
Nice.
Which, I mean, it gives me a perfect excuse
yeah,
to pick up
yeah,
some things,
sure.
right? Oh, baby, it's for you. Oh, of
Yeah.
course, I got you. You know.
You gonna write your own check?
That's for
But,
you.
Yeah.
in one of her notes, she literally has notes on her phone. One of her notes says, "I need a Thor in my collection," which I do, but it says Thor in parentheses, not Endgame.
Not Endgame.
She
Yeah.
hated Fat Thor.
Yeah. I didn't like Fat Thor either. Personally.
No.
I was disappointed in that, but I understand. So I can see what you're saying, Carlos, and that is fair. A lot of people had some gripes with the Hulk being defeated too easily by Thanos. But again, it's just one of those things where, like, the translation, maybe they wrote it different. I didn't follow the comics, so I don't know how accurate that is, but from a character development standpoint, it worked for me. I just, because Hulk was just used to being invincible. He was always winning, but Thanos put him in his place, and that created this whole mental this imbalance between Bruce and Hulk. And they talk about it and they show it throughout the next two movies, and a lot of people didn't like that. I personally did, just because to show that Hulk was embarrassed, he was ashamed, right? He just went into hiding. And I don't know, it was just an interesting take on that character, from someone who's being so strong and just always winning, to then showing, like, to becoming, feeling like he's weak. And so I personally like that aspect of it. And then but again, Infinity War, I mentioned Zemo was my second favorite villain. Thanos here, he just had so much depth to him. A lot of people said this is more of a Thanos movie, Infinity War. And he, again, going back to Iron Man, Captain America doing what they think is right. He, in this whole movie, was only doing what he thought what was right. Be like the strongest. What does it say?
Strongest
Something
man.
about the strongest will.
Oh,
uh, what was the quote? He says like the strongest purpose needs like the strongest will. I should probably research that, but
the strongest decisions require this
The hardest decisions
the hardest
require the
decisions.
strongest will,
Yeah.
yeah.
right?
And so that's basically what he was doing, right? And he kept saying, once he accomplishes his goal, he's just going to go and retire on some planet and just escape and leave everything and just kind of try to live peaceful. And he did that, right? That was the whole thing in the end. So that kind
Yeah.
of shows you he wasn't doing it to get control over the universe or the whole world or the galaxies or everything. He just thought he was doing what he thought was right. And that just added so much more depth to his character. And yeah, it was just just Infinity War is just awesome. Now, Endgame, I will say, had the bigger moments, right? Of course, we all know the Avengers Assemble scene, which is, oh man, that's just, I think that is like probably my favorite scene in all of Marvel movies. And so that, and then Tony's death was that was a very big tearjerker.
Easy. Those two things you just mentioned. So, like in my ratings, I gave Endgame or Infinity War 9.6, and I gave Endgame 9.7. Right. So small amount of disparity between that, and all they'll change. Those two will fluctuate for me probably forever. Now, what sold it for me truly was the very ending, the Avengers Assemble, and then I Am Iron Man. Like those two those were two heavy hitting scenes. And prior to me making these ratings just a couple weeks ago, I was always Team Infinity War because I thought the movie itself flowed the best, but Endgame had the better standout individual scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So going on that real quick, I want to talk about like going back to my choices between these two. Is like what you just said is very like why I chose this reason of Infinity War being better. The final act of Endgame was the best part of this movie, but what I enjoyed from Infinity War was the other acts. Like for example, in Infinity War, in Endgame, we didn't get to see a lot of the heroes until the final act because they were gone. Right, the entire movie was them going on a mission, and I think what I really enjoyed about Infinity War was all the characters having their unique moments, because even though Doctor Strange came back in the final act, he didn't do nothing in an Endgame but hold like a little cyclone of water, right? And I I enjoyed him a lot in the Titan movie and fighting the children of Thanos at the beginning of the movie. Nomad Cap, Black Panther running in Wakanda with Steve Rogers in the front. Like going back to Thor, like his arc there, like going from like holding the sun to getting Stormbreaker in that pivotal moment. Even the Guardians teaming up with Peter Parker, like all that to me, like sequenced together, not only flowed well, but like I got to see those characters shine in different moments versus like I go back to Endgame and I know the movie was a time heist movie. Like that's what it was. Like it was and to me, like I like the shining of the other characters more in Infinity War than in Endgame, because Endgame, the best part I think Joey just said about skipping to the end is like something that I probably would do. It's like I could watch the entire Infinity War, but like Endgame, I'd be like, dude, skip to the end, because I do like as a huge Captain America fan, him picking up the hammer in theaters was like ridiculous. Like I knew that he was gonna. I told my brother, like my brother wasn't a big like fan of him. I was like, bro, watch the scene from Age of Ultron right here, YouTube clip. He tweaks the hammer, right? And I was like, bro, I guarantee you he's gonna pick that up in Endgame.
Thor
and
screaming,
long and behold, bro, that is possibly my favorite scene from, and then Cam, I know that you were talking about, and Joey gets mad, calls me selfish, calls Cap selfish, because you talk about Iron Man sacrificing himself at the end. I knew one of them was gonna die, either Cap or Iron Man, and when I saw Iron Man snap, I was like, "Oh, thank God, Cap's gonna live!" Like,
after Iron Man dies, Carlos is like, "Team Cap,
thank you."
Yeah, relief. I was like, Team Cap, still like we're still living, baby. No, yeah, man. I was like, part of me was relieved, bro, because I was like, dude, please don't let Cap die. Please don't let Cap die. And I didn't want Iron Man to die, but like whenever that happened, I was like, yeah, dude, there's no way they're both gonna die now. Like, I was like, they're gonna keep one. But I mean, I think it was a full circle for him, like to end it that way and get his exit, because he really did start up that cinematic universe, man.
Look,
And
but also
he did.
just take it on paper. Look, Iron Man, at the very beginning, Iron Man 1.
Yep.
Well, probably one of the most selfish people on the planet, right?
Yep.
Didn't even give Pepper Potts the time of the day. He was just so absorbed with himself and what was going on and everything else. Then at the very end, he was willing to give everything for the world.
Oh, man, yeah.
I know.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier when we were talking about those 3 movies, Austin, that his progression as a person, right, his maturity, it carried throughout the whole entire Infinity War saga up until this point. It's just for those of us who are big fans, we saw it all, and it was just like you said, it went back full circle. It started with him, and it didn't end with him, but in this saga, it ended there, and well said on that one. I will say, that moment, had some sentimental significance because that was, me and my friends and family, we had seen most of it and it built up. But Endgame was the one that we actually all sat together like in one row in IMAX. So I had my closest buddies and my immediate family, and then my buddy's significant others. We all saw it together, man. It was just that in itself was just really sentimental. Like I'll never forget that.
That's dope. That's dope.
But yeah, to the point on Captain America getting that Mjolnir, picking him up, was the crowd exploding in the theaters for you guys too?
Dude, that's crazy, dude.
Infinity War and Endgame, talk about perfect theater experiences.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Bro,
like the theater, like the experience with the audience made those movies, like I'll forever remember being in theater watching them because it was like electrifying. You just feel it in the air. No one talked at any inappropriate time. Everyone laughed at the appropriate time. They cheered, cried, they booed. They did all that at the perfect times that I was doing it. So,
yeah. Dude. And just the timing of the movie dropping right before COVID too, like, like if it would have hit during COVID or something, it would have just been, it wouldn't have been the same, man. So
that's true.
like
it
would not have been the same. And then go back to Cap one more time, dude. The way that he used the hammer too was fire too. Like he came out and really put in that work, man.
He did,
So that was also really cool.
He was doing stuff that I'm like, have you used this before? Like, wow,
I know. Like, what happened? What happened in between Avengers 2 and 3?
Yeah,
it's like, dude, he knew how to put it. Like, he knew how to put that thing to work, man. And then Blue was mentioning the portal scene, bro. That Falcon telling Cap on your left. Oh man, I'm telling you, like that final act. If the movie was just the final act, then it would be number 1 for me. But dude, that final act was spot on, dude. It was perfect, man. Like it really was like the best thing I think a comic book fan could have, man. It really
did
was.
any of you forget about when you were watching that movie for the first time? Did you guys forget that who was it? Hulk snapped everybody back, and like that whole team was back. And like, were you completely surprised? When,
you know who told me? My fiance. My fiance was like,
she spoiled it for you.
No. Like she was like. Kind of like not kind of yes and no, because she was like, whenever Cap was by himself, he was like, hey, what about those people that were just snapped like right there? And then like I was like, what about them? And then you just hear on your left and the freaking portal starts opening, and I was like, no way, like like that was like the perfect thing. So like I did forget though, I had forgotten about all that stuff, and I was like, dude. But she was the one that remembered, and I was like, "Damn, man!" I was like, "I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you."
Yeah, good job. Anyone else forget about that, or do you guys?
I think I did. I think I did up until the point that, until they came through the portal, because before that we just saw, we saw the Hulk snap, and then he got cooled off with all the the fire extinguishers. Here come Ant-Man looking at the birds, and he's like, "Hey guys, I think I'm like, where these birds come from?" He got blown up, and I was like, "Uh-oh, we're in a bad situation now, crazy."
I think that was brilliantly set up, just because things were just kind of flowing the flow, right? Like it snapped, Hulk snapped everybody back. They're like, "Oh wow, it worked," but just because it kept going, like the pacing I think was perfect. And they had the explosion. They had to figure out what was going on, and they see Thanos out there, and they all get together. And then now that fight alone, also by itself, was just like, oh man, it kept you, it hooked you in, and it made you forget about everything else. And yeah, that was just, oh man, they said it, Russo brothers, man. To go back to one of the reasons why I put Endgame as my number 2. So yeah, impactful moments. I think like one of the strongest in all of cinema. But the reasons why I didn't like it is I wouldn't give it a 10 is because I felt they just recycled some scenes from previous movies, Avenger movies. So specifically, obviously, we go back to, and I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, but the whole Clint Natasha scene, right? It was just kind of reenactment of the Thanos and the Gamora, and so I was like, I felt that kind of took away from Gamora's death, just because they were doing it again. And so, I mean, it was still, even though we knew what was coming, and then Black Widow dying, it still left an impact. But as that was going on, I was like, okay, we kind of, they did this before, and so it didn't really have as much of an impact. And then the Avengers going back to like 2012 times, and where like the first Avengers took place, so stuff like that. I kind of felt like, all right, so they're, I mean, I get it, they're time heists, they're going back and trying to get the stones, but I don't know, it just felt a little recycled in that sense, and so that's why I kind of knocked it down, and I didn't think it was as strong as it could be. Whereas Infinity War, it was all original, from what I recall. And yeah, Cam, you were talking about Peter and how mad that made you, and I think he did that to a lot of people, including me. But that just again shows you, how angry he was, and he just didn't care about anything else. He was just pissed, and he just wanted to exact his revenge and kill Thanos, right? Because that's how much he loved Gamora, and how hurt he was by her loss when he found out. And it's like, try to put again those situations, try to put yourself in his situation. You just found out, yeah, your wife or your girlfriend or your significant that you loved just died and was killed by the person right in front of you. How would you act? And
I'm glad they referenced that in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
You mean like as far as like Gamora not being the same Gamora?
No, that Peter mentioned, like as he's trying to catch that Gamora up on everything that happened, he explained everything, but then he was like, yeah, I essentially something like, I punched Thanos in the face, almost killed the entire universe.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so I mean, I again, I test that to good writing, because that made you feel. I mean, it's probably not what we wanted, and he almost sacrificed the whole universe, all timelines for that. But it was somewhat relatable, right? It was just like you felt angry because of what he did, but at the same time, he was just hurting for losing the person he loves. So yeah, man, just great, man. Infinity War was just like great all around. Real quick, let me get through some of these chats here. Yeah, and for those of you watching the replay, in the comments, let us know what your favorite trilogy is and what your favorite Avengers movie. And this is a lot of good stuff. Good discussions here tonight, fellas. Let's see, where did I leave off? Let's see, S-Beams, I just put on Infinity War. Damn it, now I won't sleep for a while. Yeah, I kind of want to do the same, right? So it's like fall asleep to the nice glow of Infinity War in my bed, get snuggled all up. Let's see here, what else we got? Sorry if I'm skipping something. I think I already got to it. A lot of people saying, oh, the portals. You guys mentioned the portals. Yeah. Mm-hmm. S-Beams mentioning listen to portals from the Endgame score and Forge from Infinity War score. Chills every time. Yeah. And with the Avengers Assemble, I still get chills to this day every time I watch that scene. Like, even though I know it's coming, it just, oh man, the impact of that scene. Yeah. Fire. Blue, Thanos could have just doubled the resources. Thanos was wrong. Yeah, and I hear a lot of people mention that, because there's the meme that we hear is Thanos was right. But again, we can go on for this, but my thought on this real quick is just like, if he did that, then as collectors, we know the biggest problem is space. So if it just doubled everything, I think everything would just be more crowded, right? So then space would be an issue. So I think that's why he didn't do that. Go ahead, Austin.
I get that sentiment. I do, but yeah, it's just kind of like you said. That doesn't detract from the motivation at all that he has. Right. Which I think that's the biggest thing. It's just
exactly.
Yeah, it's semantics of execution.
Yeah. Either way, like you said, he thought it through and he had a plan and he was sticking to it. He put some thought to it. and for whatever reason, he felt that doing what he was doing was the right way to go about it. So yeah, well
Yeah.
said on that one, Austin.
You
Yeah.
know, now that I think about it, why didn't he just double the amount of planets there are and split the
Yeah, I
population
guess.
up?
Yeah, I guess
Because
that's
like
the Blue's
think about it,
point.
right? So like,
Yeah.
I mean, eventually he cut everything into half, right?
Mhm.
But
Hmm.
eventually the number's gonna catch up. So
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
like,
You're
do
not
it again.
extending
Yeah.
the life of anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you put us back maybe about 200,000 years, but like eventually we'll be right back there again, bro. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, people
Yep.
don't stop having children, like, because you snap.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I guess he figures, we'll just go find the stones again or something.
He's
Or no, he
like,
destroyed
"Well."
them. That's right. That's right. Never mind.
This
Yeah,
he
well,
could have just
that's
done
true.
infinity resources. It's called Infinity War. You know,
Yeah.
like
Wish for more wishes. Yeah. Let's see here. So I think that was it. Yeah. I think I got everything. Yeah, like you mentioned, Joey was. I would skip sometimes to the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
But gentlemen, anyone have any more thoughts on these movies? On Avengers? Any more? After anything we
Which
discussed? Or
I just don't know which one to watch right now.
yeah, I know, right? That's the beauty of these. Yep. Let's see what else was good. Yeah, I think I mentioned all on that. But yes, sir, fellas, we did it. We got through the trilogies and we added the bonus Avengers talk. Thank you all again for joining us. I appreciate y'all in the chat. Of course, my panelists. We'll go around the clock real quick. If anything you want to plug, we're going to do our outros and our plugs here. So if you guys want to head out in the chat, no worries, understood. But yeah, thank you all for joining us. Austin, what do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
I got nothing to plug. Just, follow Feezy. Make sure you subscribe to him. And thank you for the opportunity to be on here with you guys. Cam, awesome first time talking with you. Carlos, as always, baby. Feezy,
Pleasure.
thank you.
Yeah, of course, man. Cam, anything you want to plug? Anything going on?
Yeah, Jay, appreciate you having me on here, man. And it was great chatting with Austin. There's also Carlos, man. Yeah, so I have a review for Dune Part 2 out on Big Old Belt Media channel. I'll be doing mine, probably dropping like this weekend. But yeah, that's about it, man. Just doing reviews as they come through, man. But thank you again. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm glad we were finally able to, like I said, to get this going, and our schedules got synced up so you can come on and finally get this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be harder for y'all having the 3-hour time difference when you guys.
Yeah. Yep. And we both got daddy duties. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Troopers.
Yeah. House stuff going on. Yeah. Yeah. We know how it is. Yeah. Carlos, anything you want to plug?
First of all, man, it was a pleasure to be here, man. Thank you for inviting me. This was one of the best streams I've ever had. It's one of the best topics discussions I've had in a while. I love talking about movies, so it was perfect.
Yeah.
Austin, it's always a pleasure to see you and hang out with you. Soon we're gonna see each other. Cam, man, it was so awesome to chat with you, bro. Like, you're such a cool guy, man. I can't wait to stream with you again sometime or catch up with you outside of the stream. I am on Monday. I have a stream, the Zio Lounge. I'm very excited. I'm gonna have Sergeant Bananas. He is one of the most influential toy photographers that
Yeah.
had created everything that. I based my ideas off of him. I started off because of him, so I'm very excited for him to be on there. And Tuesdays the Will Push, Thursdays Copper Drop. So yeah, excited, man. Really excited for that one.
All right. Yeah. And like you mentioned earlier, OxCon, you talking about our love for films. Me and you guys are talking movies, and you guys were saying you and Carlos and Austin were talking about your love of film. I was like, oh man, I got to get you on there. I'm creating a new channel. This was like when this Feces video was in the works, and so yeah, I'm glad I was finally to get you both also on. Austin, I know I've had you before. We talked about Thanksgiving, but
yep,
to come back and discuss this, and yeah, I agree, Carlos. This was fun. It's something I've been looking forward to. So I'm glad I was able to get you all three on here finally to discuss this. Yeah, good discussion, man. This is good. Thank you again for spending your Saturday night with me this evening and with us.
Pleasure.
In the chat. Likewise, chat. Thank you for coming through. Let's see. And as for me, as usual, just catch the socials. I did 2 streams today. I'll be on tomorrow with Ben Thomas. Shout out to Ben Thomas on Let's Get Nuts. So Sunday, that's 2 p.m. Pacific. But yeah, I think I do have a lot of ideas for Feezy's Media, a lot of things similar to this and other things I want to do. So I'll probably start picking up the content on that. Yeah, and do some of that stuff. But these gentlemen here, I'll put their links in the description below. Of course, show them some love if you haven't already. Check them out; they're all doing great stuff. Yeah, it's just, if you can, just show them some love. And thank you all again, my panel, for joining me in the chat. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good night, and we'll catch you on the next one.